Good night, good night, good night. I am live. Alright, good night, my people. Blessings and manners and respect. I want to apologize for being 2 minutes late. 3 minutes late. Oh my god. I am so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I am so sorry. Alright, my apologies. Now, let me get into the show. I'm gonna play this video right here because it's serious. Yeah, man, I'm gonna play this video right now. Like and share the video, guys. Let's go.
Flexible remote job. Zenfi matches you with roles that fit your skill.
I'm either judge or meet your maker. Our prisons and police lockups are fully populated. I do not train my police to lose. We have the superior training and firepower to ensure that we win every time. Wherever they go, we find them and we bring them in, one way or the other. Whether we bring them in the pickup that come behind us in the car, I don't want to come and stretch out, it's their business. I don't problem that, right? But we find them and bring them in. So I don't need a judge or meet your maker.
Yes, Bolo, pleasant night to our viewers, YouTube viewers, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and other social media space. It is imperative that I do this video after the crucial murder, blatant murder.
Good night, everybody.
Young lady down in Granville. And those who watched the videos, because there are more than one videos from different end, and how the shooting was displayed, regardless of what information the police had about this young lady. That's not a good way to just analyze the young lady like that. And if you watch the video, the police was more on the left side.
I'm on the live.
The passenger side. And if you look on the right, steering was more on the right, to the immediate, all around to the right, because you saw the front wheel turning on the right. But I presume the police was standing before the vaccine, but she was trying to turn the vehicle away from the policeman, and he took out his firearm, his popo, and shoot, analyze the young lady.
27th.
I watched the video and tears came to my eyes.
Yeah.
I remember when in last election, most of you put up my picture all over social media. And you disgrace me, you ostracize me. Even so-called Christians and prophets and prophetesses and apostles came on, put up my videos, put up my picture, and they slaughter, they undermine, they brought many allegations against me. They said a lot of stuff about me. And I could remember when the Lord appeared unto me, the Lord said, Peter, be silent. Leave them to their reprobate mind. This is what they desire. They want their 1 PM. They want their 3rd term. I've given you the revelation. What are their objectives going forward? And none took the time to listen. So when you see they're unaliving our young men, I think it's about 100 I had young men gone. And there are young ladies now, they started launching attack on the females.
Honey, you're getting hotter every day. Did you start a new workout or something?
Yeah, chair tai chi. Just 7 minutes a day. Hey, no floor, no jumping. Built especially for men over 50.
Make it a habit. 7 minutes of...
I said it and I put up the young lady on my profile. And I told them, under this government, you are not safe. What the government did, they realized to get the go forward, they gave the church 75 million in disguise to silence the church.
Mighty God.
And you hear a lot of citizens coming out. Why is it the church not saying anything? How can the church say anything while they are in the government's pocket.
In a bed.
The church is not able to distinguish good and evil. Now the church has become corrupt. They have paid the church over so that they can get the friendship of the religious fraternity. And if you notice the backlash coming
on the
to
church,
the church,
yeah,
to the body of Christ.
Yeah.
Because we did not discern spiritually, but we discern politically. Because everybody was shouting and sounding the alarm, you're a false prophet, and all your prophecy, they're not coming to pass. But all of you who came out and put up my picture on social media, you know that you expose yourself. Even the one they call Travis, they are the apostles and prophets who came out. There was this Rasta man, I think the video came up sometime last week, who came out saying all manner of evil against me falsely.
No, Jamaica. Me have to pause you right there, sir. Let me tell you why. You know, say, I play that Rastaman video where he must say, no, as a labor right, him can't believe so the government do what them do with the $1.44 billion. I only spend 26 million out of it. When I tell you, say, I never know, say that man did attack Pastor Peter Chambers online. I have to play the video for you. I have to play the video for you. I cannot, I listen, because I was watching it earlier, so hold on. Alright, so I'm going to go and search for this thing here. I'm going to give me a second, my people. Let me just locate this video real quick. See? Alright, so alright. Right there. Yeah, man, see it here? This is the video. That video here. Two of them still enough. So I'm going to send it to myself on the computer and play it. Then send the next one and play it too. Listen to this. Probably love.
So hold on. This whole time I'm a blaze against PNP because them say they must start GoFundMe and look help and this and that. The man them really hold on for the money and never give it out. So all this time when we believe in a JLP and I say, yo, the man you know, for the JLP and the man I try to do the man. The man they really hold on for the money and don't give it out. So when the people them say don't give the government no money, give it to, you understand? Give it to the people them go out and give it to the people and everybody give the government. And me was doing that the whole time I believe in that party. So hold on.
Alright, so
hold on.
So you want to hear that? Zane? Watch out now. This is the video where him react to him and say if he give context.
This whole time I'm a blaze against PNP because them say they must start GoFundMe and look help and this and that. The man them really hold on for the money.
Right. Your argument is that all this time PNP said they must start GoFundMe and money them a beg. So PNP actually collect 3.8 million but spend 4.8 million.
Facts.
So when you said them say, you should have said based on PNP GoFundMe then collect 4 million and this is expenditure, they spend out the money and it's a timeline when they spend the money. So they come with actual things you can rely upon and ask them questions.
Yes.
You would never say them say when it has already been proven and receipt provided.
That's right.
See, all of this provided with receipt. We are going to see what you say now.
So hold on. This whole time I'm a blaze against PNP because them say they must start GoFundMe and look help and this and that. The man them really hold on for the money and never give it out.
So you never ask Munchi, you never ask Chucky, you never got the money spent over there.
The man they really hold on for the money.
Yeah, man, they really hold on for the receipt.
They really hold on for the true, my general. They not spend the money.
What we are seeing here is executive capture.
the Prime Minister controlling everything. The architecture of this authority is not independent. It is subordinate to the executive. The CEO is appointed by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister can issue binding directions and the CEO must comply. The Cabinet alone determines which projects are approved and which are strategic. This is not a balanced institutional design. This is centralized executive control over project selection, procurement, and execution.
Easy, my general. Easy. I know that to come about right now. Let's go back to this.
And they are the apostles and prophets who came out. There was this Rasta man, I think the video came up sometime last week, who came out saying all manner of evil against me falsely. And I heard him coming out bashing the government. Don't leave the government alone. Me tell no.
Well, I know Rasta man. Rasta man? This man and a Rasta man. But the Labour right, they might come out still, you know. Ryan Campbell, what's up, bro? Yo, the Labour right, they might come right out, brother. I tell you, enough of them are come out right now.
Told you all what they are capable of doing. The Lord showed me what are their objectives, what are their motives.
Yes.
And you all say that a demons attacked him and a devil and him a false prophet, whatever. The Lord told me, the Lord said, Peter, just be silent. Leave them to their reprobate mind. Leave them to their judgment. And this is a judgment that Jamaica is getting because they refuse to listen to the voice of God. And some of us need to understand that when God speaks, it does not sound logical.
Listen to this.
God always speaks out of your logical perspective, your logical reasoning. Anything that the God does, he uses the silly things to confound the wise. So when God gives a prophetic word, it not going to sound right, it not going to sound good, it's not going to sound logical. And that's how God speaks. And that is why every man, great men of God, always get into trouble with the governments in those times. Because they're speaking directly. How many young ladies are we going to analyze in Jamaica? How many young men? The security force has become a killing machine. When I told you all about the dead squad, you know, say me mad and me a idiot and me a fool and me dunce. When I told you all of the impending judgment that is coming to Jamaica, none of you took the time to listen.
It's true. It's true.
The organization that came out and exposed about the Melissa relief money, and only 2% of it was used. Listen, you all have to suffer the consequences. Listen, when we talk, we don't care what no one wants to say. Whatever Andrew has to offer, we don't have to take it. If Andrew put a hot steel down in the throat, we must take it. Because you were all warned. I told you all what this present government, what they're capable of doing, what are their objectives. Their objectives is not about the people. It is not about the nation. Look at the lands. They're taking away the people's land after Melissa's aftermath. And Jamaicans are being placed in a position where they're fighting for life. They're fighting for everything. Yet you are running up and down at about 1 p.m. and third term. And then you are coming out a ball. Whatever Andrew have to offer, want to take it now, man? Take it. Swallow it, because what? You are disgrace the voice of God. And that is why Jamaica is suffering. You notice where the murder took place? And I'm not saying murder did not take place in other parishes, in St. James. St. James is a territory where one of God's judgment, major judgment, is going to take place. St. James.
Not the first time I'm hearing that, Jamaica. St. James. Woo! Lord have mercy. Not the first time I hear that. Trust me.
It is a territory where sexual immorality, incest, witchcraft, obeah, iniquity, voodooism, bestiality. Where did they structure?
And they have 3 JLP MPs down there. Is that a coincidence? Nope.
Or erected the mermaid sculpture. St. James.
Yep.
So there's a lot of blood sacrifice taking place in the territory. Many of these young people are losing their lives. It is not just like that. There are altars that have been built. And what they have done now, the evil territory and organization has paralyzed the church. They know that the church is gullible and they love money. So what they do, they use money to paralyze the church, to silence the church. So now the church is not here defending the nation as it should, but they're defending their bellies. But it's sad, all of you who defended, and I'm talking to you, all of you, so-called prophets and prophetesses and apostles, and especially those who came out and was bashing me on social media last year, September, after the election, calling me false prophet. Many of you, hearing the word of the Lord, you're going to live to say out of your very mouth, Pastor Peter Chambers was right.
Hey!
And how can I make an apology to this man who was looking out for my future? I was not looking out for my future. I was only looking for my belly. But Pastor Peter was looking out for the future, the spiritual future, and destiny for the people of Jamaica.
That's right.
No other government has implemented laws where the security force go out and I kill out the people, I kill out the men, I kill out the women. And then I'm hearing now the police are saying that it is self-defense. How can that be self-defense? And the video, that is why you all don't want to wear the body cameras. You all are opposing wearing the body cameras because the body cameras will expose you. What the Jamaican people need to do, when they need to fill on the territory with cameras. That is the only way you defend yourself, because they are going to come and kill out the whole of Uno and then implant a gun for Uno. I remember in 2021 when they came, I heard from a good source that there was a police who should come to Brownstown to plant drugs and gun in my car. At that time, I didn't have a car. I rented a rent car. And until today, that police could not leave Kingston. And that is why none of you can close this man of God mouth. I told God in CTAC, prison cell, never forget, 12 o'clock the day, I was on my knees while some of the inmates were gone to court. I was on my knees and I said, God, if you delivered me from my enemies out of CTAC, I will testify of the goodness that you have done to me, of how you released me from prison. I remember even in the interrogating room, they asked me to take off my shirt. When I took off my shirt and they did not see not even one tattoo, one of the police came up to me and said, Rev, which generation are you from? All of the pastors who we have probed, at least they have one tattoo. But what? The Prime Minister told CTAC that I am a radical Muslim. So all the information that was given to CTAC, it was deliberately to eliminate me. And I have the document. So now you can't say I lie me until an allegation. I have the document that was signed by every person who wanted my head.
The Mr. Parker.
So you can stay there and talk about false prophet. Wow. You notice how they all want to get out? From after election, you notice from after election, a big judgment in Jamaica. How do they all drag me on social media and mock me and slaughter me and persecute me? You know, see what happened? Melissa come and kill off. Many of you who came on social media and was mocking me and telling a lot of lies on me. Some of you don't live to see the tail. God killing you out. I told you all that all of you who support this government, you're going to go down. And that's like thus said the Lord. Listen, you can say false prophets up to you. We're accustomed to your evil fingers. We're accustomed to your evil speech. Because what? You support evil. You support a government that implements obi, a government that implements homosexuality, a government that implements witchcraft. We have never seen so many obi and witchcraft in the land. All over Jamaica, witchcraft has become the norm of the day. It's become first priority. And reading scriptures hypocritically and pretending that you know God. And Brother Travis, I can tell you, me know God I go take you down, you know. All of them what I tell you say you're apostle. The Lord told me he didn't call you as an apostle. You need to go sit down at the feet. I want great man of God who will teach you and process you, because your spirit is not right. You carry a spirit of falsehood, pride, and loftiness. And all you're doing on social media, Travis, is just exposing yourself. You know, so you get angry and you look evil. You're frustrated. You're living in misery. And the people attacking you because you have made yourself an enemy to the people of God because of lack of knowledge. The Bible said because of lack of knowledge, my people perish. The Bible declares, Travis, the baby desire the sincere milk of the word of the Lord. The Lord told you that you need milk. You were not processed properly as social media you run come on. You need processing. You need to go fast and pray and seek God in fasting and prayer, so God can strip you from the self-righteous and the proud spirit.
I hope them now. I hope them not they are building a profile for me about me. I'm Muslim, you know. True, me have my little beard here, so let me declare, I am not a Muslim, neither am I radical. Let me declare, Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. Let me declare, I am neither a Muslim, none of that. Okay? God is good. God is great. Don't watch the beard, ladies and gentlemen. If me have hair on my head, you moon have on a beard. But I probably have one little mustache and, you know, one little line or so. Yeah. But you know, you have to balance the thing. No hair on the head, hair on the beard. You understand? God is good.
Meet people
I
who
never know say them. The Prime Minister they declare say the man is a radical Muslim. Pastor Peter Chambers. Some of you might not know the story of Pastor Peter Chambers, but it's serious.
So all you went on.
It's serious.
Bring in my picture, Travis. Listen, let me tell you something. And the wrong man you mess with me, I tell you that. The wrong man of God you mess with. And as long as I live on this earth, me know God will take you down. I know God is going to take you down because you touched the Lord's anointed. And you came out and you mock me preaching, thus said the Lord, a pounding word. You laugh and you mock. The Lord told me, Travis, brother Travis, God is going to mock you. Your ministry is going to go down in misery. Brother Travis, let me tell you something. You know that all the people violating in ministry, some came back and make it right and their ministry has gone. The ones who haven't until today, some of them die fighting in ministry. Listen, you touch the anointed. You touch a patriot. One of God's chosen you touch. And because you're blind, deaf, and dumb, and because you have a self-righteous spirit, a false spirit, you can't even identify the sons and daughters of God. And then you have persons coming and talk about you, God called you as an apostle. The Lord told me, he did not call you. They are the ones who called you into the apostleship. Because if you're an apostle, you can identify God's servants. The church is the root cause of what is happening in Jamaica. If my people that are called by my name will humble themselves, it is a church. The church is paid out. The church is bought. It is purchased.
Wow.
The church is in full 100% support with the government of Jamaica. Until now, the church has not come out. Only one or two of us who have came out to speak against the evil. The obia, the witchcraft, the lodge, the dealerance, the voodooism, the Baphomet, the Satanists, the occultists. Practices that they are practicing in this land to the point that majority of the churches are under the auspices of this evil government. The Lord told me, he said, Peter, sit and watch. Just sit and watch. Some of you talk about go pray for Jamaica. Listen, Jamaica don't need no prayer. Jamaica need to go down in sackcloth and ashes and repent. Some of you sarcastically, but I use scripture. The Lord say must pray for the government. Listen, that's not what they need. The government, the prime minister need to repent. The government, those in the parliament house, they need to repent. They need to come out of the faggot lifestyle, the witchcraft, the obia, the lodge. Some of them are in brotherhood. Some of them are in the dark world, the marine kingdom. They need to repent. And then last but not least, all of you that have the picture on the altar.
Wow.
You notice that from 2020, when I try to take me down, and you can't take me down. Because I'm protected. I'm surrounded by God. God himself is surrounded, protecting me. The Lord told me, Peter, tell them, you are going to see many of them funerals. And I've watched many of you die. I've watched many of you crumble. Watch and see the salvation of the Lord. And until the church comes out and ready to speak against the evil of this present government, but the church cannot do so because they are bought and purchased. The 75 million that was allocated to the church, it was done in disguise to paralyze the voice of the church. That's what the Lord revealed to me, and that's what thus said the Lord. The judgment that is coming to Jamaica.
When you hear that, the 75 million, we then give the church have to bribe the church, and that's a thus said the Lord. Let me play it again.
Million that was allocated to the church of this present government. But the church cannot do so because they are bought and purchased. The 75 million that was allocated to the church, it was done in disguise to paralyze the voice of the church. That's what the Lord reveals to me, and that's what thus said the Lord.
Wow.
The judgment that is coming to Jamaica. Some of you think, say, you'll get it from the earthquake, and I'll get it. There is a massive earthquake that's going to hit Jamaica. And many of you who are out there talking, you're going to be buried under rubble. You're going to be buried under your house, buried under the house, the workplace, buried under your grave. Many of you are going to die. The tsunami that God is getting ready to release over this land. And some of you think it's joke. These false prophets, every time they come out. Listen, y'all don't want to hear the voice of God. That's no problem. Y'all doesn't want to hear just the Lord. My sheep knows my voice and follow. If you are truly of the kingdom of God, you will never take offense or become offended by God's word. But the moment you become offended and you take offense, it shows that you are not of the kingdom of God. And then you start talking about everybody judging you. Nobody judging you. It's your dirty lifestyle. It's your sin, your adultery, your fornication, your witchcraft, your incest, your faggot, your lesbian, your homosexual lifestyle. That is it. That is what is judging you. It is your sin. The Bible said, your sin shall surely find you out. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Many of you will tried out 1 p.m. third term. My friend, live in the third term. All I can say, many of you are not going to live to see tomorrow. Because judgment is upon the land of Jamaica. Because you all resisted the voice of God, using scripture about false prophet. Because you all doesn't want to hear the truth. Because you are living your lies and your untruth and your political lies. And you defend this evil government with everything, to the point that even when you see the blatant dishonesty, the blatant robbery of taxpayers' money, the blatant robbery of Melissa fund the money, some of you still in the defense and covering. But let me tell you something. How long you are going to cover your sin and cover your corruption and your evil? One day it went full. I don't know if Jamaicans ever saying, you will never know that there's a pit until the pit start overflow. So that's all I'm saying to us, people of God. Woo! Seek your own salvation with fear and trembling. Some of you are on social media fighting for supremacy, fighting to say who is prophet and who is this. Listen, social media does not declare who is prophet or prophetess. Social media is a platform to release information. So social media does not determine that you're an apostle or you're a prophet. It is a medium by which information is given. So after all that you have done, the charity and everything that you have done, because everybody's bragging about the charity that they have done, that cannot save you. You could feed the whole of Jamaica. Listen, every knee must bow, every tongue must confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. There is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof is death. And if the Prime Minister of Jamaica does not repent of his sins, and the pastors that are defending him does not repent of their sins, dog eat our supper. And continue to sound the alarm, false prophet. Because the more you sound the alarm, it's the more the judgment is going to increase upon the land. All over Jamaica, the death of that young lady in Granville, my condolences to the family. I told you all, every very one of you who support Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister, you're going to go down. You're supporting evil. You're supporting an agenda that is not of God. And until you all recognize what this man of God is declaring through the voice of God, through the inspiration of God, I can tell you all, dog, eat you all supper. Because all over Jamaica, people are crying. All over on social media, people are crying. Tears came to my eyes when I saw the video with the young lady's life unalived. They literally took the people out of the vehicle because they had a plan to murder the young lady.
Mighty God.
And then you all want us to sit down as if nothing happened. All I can say to you all, Y'all are pushing a civil war in this land.
Hey!
And it doesn't matter what you all do. Any day, the great Jamaicans rise up in this land. All of you have to go pack up on the dulce and run out of Jamaica.
It's a joke.
Because the Jamaican people will recognize that you all does not have their future at heart. You all are just using them politically, psychologically, to manipulate and to control the people, to carry out your own personal agenda.
Preach.
The evidence is there. The evidence is there.
Right in the
JSF cannot go around this video. They cannot. And if they try to go around this video, something is wrong. The evidence shows the police reacted impulsively.
Yes.
He didn't have to shoot the young lady. All he could have done is handcuff the young lady and bring her to the police station. Why you murder the young lady?
Yep.
Regardless of what she have done, none of us have legal rights to unalive anyone. But I thank God, the very government of Jamaica came after me in 2021 to unalive me in Brownstone. And the angel of the Lord stood up and defended me to the point the hungry belly labor rights them say a lie me a tell. How can my story be lie? And it's on YouTube. It's in the record books. Right now, if you Google, the pastor got locked up in 2021. You see Pastor Reverend Peter Chambers face come up.
That's a fact.
That's you evil ones.
That's a fact. Google
I'm saying that I'm telling a lie. So
Google
you're telling me a lie that they dragged me to see if I can put me behind bars.
It's true.
And I stayed in prison one night and one day. So you're telling me say a lie me I tell. You telling me who experienced the morning when I opened the door, the policeman, the soldier slapped me in my throat, in my chest, pushed me to the wall, and had the M16 in my head, and you tell me say a lie me I tell.
Sylvanev, big up.
When the very police told me that is the Prime Minister who ordered your death. So you tell me that the body bag was in the back of the car, and you tell me say a lie me I tell. To the point that the very police who was supposed to transport me in the Rockford, him saying not transport me. And I know why. Because the agenda was to kill me in the morning, but the angel of the Lord encamped round about them that fear him. The Lord said, Peter, you shall not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. Yet you are saying that I am false. Yet you are saying that I'm a false prophet. But God defended me. Hallelujah. He defended me and spared my life for me to see my 50th birthday, May 26th. I thank God for sparing my life. I was ready to die because the police in CTAC said to me, Pastor, would you really die for this cause? I said, yes, sir. To speak, thus saith the Lord. And unless you repent, Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Lord said, you shall all likewise perish. Everything look nice and dandy. And you cover it under the facade that the so-called and the religious church are protect you and they're praying for you. But listen, there's a time and season for everything under the sun. One time people say time longer than rope. Anytime you come to the end of the rope, everybody will remember this man of God. Thus said the Lord.
But when I say Portland, me never call none.
He's out. He's out. Apart the loadie, man. Mighty God. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that was Pastor Peter Chambers' latest and exclusive word of what is taking place in Jamaica, reacting to the death of the 45-year-old Latoya Burchell Bolgin. Again, my condolences to the family, you know, and some prophetic word there. So it was a 30-minute video, audio, so you know there's a lot on the pastor's mind. Yeah, people are talking about praying for Andrew. You know, when you get a warning from the Lord for 10 years, it comes a point where nobody can pray for you again, you know, because you have said to God, I am not going to listen. What happens to a child in Jamaica when they don't listen? The parents bust them ass. No say go. Good. Anyway, moving on. The People's National Party did a press conference today. I didn't listen to 1 second of it. So I'm going to speed listen it and give my oh, you listen to the premiere? Okay. Thank you for the continued support in yourself, and big up yourself, you know. Yeah, man. You're one of the ambassadors for the platform. All of my moderators, all of my members on the platform are ambassadors. Anybody that's a part of my WhatsApp channel or group is an ambassador. So if you want to become an ambassador, there's 3 levels. Be a part of the channel on WhatsApp and group. When I share stuff, you cannot share it on your platform. You can take it a step further. And there's a level where I choose persons that I see are consistent and always supporting the platform and in the comment section. I am the one that choose who I want to be a moderator. You understand? Because their names become very familiar. They're always there. Most of the time. And in the comment section as well. I pay attention to stuff like that. So I might not be able to reply to every message. It's just me. Bolo VNR 4 channels is a one-man show. I am currently running 2 channels plus TikTok. It takes a lot of work. It's just me. You understand what I'm saying? So I really appreciate the love and support that you guys share, that you guys give this platform. Liking the video is very important. Sharing the content is very important. Subscribing, all that good stuff. All right. So now let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen.
Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen gathered here, good morning and thank you for joining us today.
No man, PMP mic loud to them and I force me. Wait a minute. Them fix the mic. I force me ever hear the PMP mic so loud. Big up the people in behind the scenes.
I am Senator Cleveland Tomlinson, Deputy Spokesperson on Productivity, Efficiency and Competitiveness. I'm joined today by our spokesperson on Social Protection and Social Transformation, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, Member of Parliament. I'm also joined by our spokesperson on Trade and Global Logistics, Member of Parliament Anthony
Freedom.
I must also apologize for the absence of our spokesperson on local government and democratic reform, Natalie Nita Garvey, Member of Parliament. We have called this press conference today in light of an Auditor General's report that has produced scandalous findings about the government's management of hurricane relief funds that were donated by generous Jamaicans. The contents of the report is very outrageous, and we believe it deserves the full attention of the Jamaican people. Of $1.44 billion donated to the government of Jamaica to support the relief efforts across the island in wake of Hurricane Melissa, the Auditor General found that 88% of that was unspent as at the end of February 2026, which implies that only $26 million of that $1.44 billion was directed towards relief efforts.
Madness.
That is unacceptable.
Madness.
We will expose the governance failure behind this, and we will demand that there be a clear plan of action presented to the Jamaican people with respect to how the remainder of the hurricane relief funds will be spent. We will also be examining the administration of the roofs program, which has been a dismal management. It has been a failure by all accounts.
Of course.
And we will explore that as well.
Yes.
The logistics of the relief efforts has also been poorly managed, and our spokesperson on logistics will speak to that. I will come back at the end of the press conference and I will talk about the financial mismanagement and the poor governance framework that has enabled the underspent of the donations that have been received by the government of Jamaica. But at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'll hand over to our spokesperson on social protection and social transformation, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke. Thank you.
One Dr. Angie. Let's go.
Thank you very much. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. As you heard before, I'm Angela Brown-Burke, Shadow Minister for Social Protection and Social Transformation. I probably want to start by just talking about the roof program.
Respect freedom. Thank you.
How we handled the Hurricane Melissa is really where I probably want to start. And I want to start because in any disaster, there's always a memorandum of understanding and collaboration between central government and local government.
Mm-hmm.
This time around, it was noticeably absent. And we saw that showing up in so many different ways. And in fact, a lot of even the challenges that we're having now is also because there is that absence. So if we start by saying that there was no MOU, between ODPEM and the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. If we also start by saying that with the collaboration that was taking place, there was nothing that was documented. No roles and responsibilities of the different agencies were identified. And if we start in chaos, we must end in chaos.
That's
and
a
so
fact.
today, I want to speak to you on behalf of thousands of Jamaicans who are still living under tarpaulins, catching with friends, boxing boat, as we say in Jamaica. 7 months after a Category 5 hurricane devastated Western Jamaica. In the wake of that storm, Jamaicans at home and abroad gave generously, donating, as Senator Tomlinson has said, $1.44 billion to support survivors. More than half a year later, that generosity has not reached the ground. Less than 2% has been spent. And as the AG reported that, we have to look around us and look at the people who are still waiting.
True.
You might very well say that assessments are still being done and that victims are receiving benefits from other sources. But hold a second, we'll get there. The scope of the need is staggering. I don't know how many of us remember that in December last year, Red Cross actually estimated that there were 156,000 homes that were damaged and approximately 90,000 families who were directly affected. What this means is that all donations and all funds that would have been received would probably still not have been fully enough. There would be a gap. And that is why what has happened with the 1.44 billion sitting there with no plan is such a wicked act. These funds were intended to deliver shelter and to help hurricane victims. Instead, what do we have? Nothing but utter chaos.
Wow.
So the Auditor General's review has uncovered catastrophic deficiencies in governance, oversight, and accountability.
Yep.
The damning results? Millions in funds and materials cannot be independently verified, and our most vulnerable citizens remain completely unprotected.
Context, ladies and gentlemen. She is providing data and context. Wow.
The government rules program, I want to talk about this a little bit.
Please.
It was always intended to be the major vehicle through which hope would have been given to Jamaicans. The minister at a press conference, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, informed Jamaicans that 114,000 household assessments had been completed. That would be 73%. That optimistic, sanitized account does not match what persons are telling us on the ground. That's not what they're reporting. So let's look at the assessment so far. First of all, there's an acknowledgement that not everyone has yet been verified. And so the question is, for those who have not been assessed, what is...
You know, you're asking a very good question. Somebody said, Gio said, I wonder how the hurricane burial funds were used. Can we account for this? I don't know. Remember, there was a part of the article that I read on my live earlier that stated that, you know, ODPEM pretty much did not mention anything about the $138.8 million. Yeah, there's something about that. So they were supposed to give notice to, and that's from Burchell, you know. They're supposed to give notice to the finance minister, and they didn't. And the Auditor General flagged that and said that was, you know, that's not a good, hey, listen.
Assessed. How do they make sure that their name is on a list to be assessed? And if it's not there, what is that fair, transparent system for them to get on that list so that they can be assessed? That's the first gap that we find. And I think any gap anywhere in this system is a problem. Based on where we are and how devastating Melissa was. So that's the first thing. Then let's look at those who have been assessed. The first thing we would say is that any system of assessment, any process by which individuals are going to be assessed, needs to be fair and it needs to be transparent, and there needs to be criteria. It needs to be criteria based. And some of us might think that there is some criteria, yes, because there is the major damage, the minor damage, and the total damage. However, we need to make sure that when persons are in fact assessed, that they are put in the category that they belong. That whatever errors there might be, human errors, that they are caught and that they are actually resolved. So let me tell you what I really mean by that, and I'll give you a real example. So let's look at what this looks like on the ground. Consider Miss X in Hanover. She was assessed. She was told that she qualified for a grant. Yet when she went to the parish office, she realized that they had misidentified her community. Yes? And therefore, she is now in limbo. We have Mas Joe. His telephone number when he went to the office, his telephone number was entered incorrectly. A payment showed up in the system as processed, only to later disappear entirely. And we have heard the stories of individuals who spend their last little dollar to go to the office to get information and still can't even find their name on the file. Now, these are not isolated incidents. This is state-sponsored frustration. And something has to be done about it. We believe that it is important for whatever system that is being devised by the government to have those opportunities for individuals to query, for individuals to make sure that they are on the list, for individuals to actually even respond to assumptions. So we all know how Jamaican families are. Because my sister came and applied for a grant doesn't mean that we live in the same household or there's the same big yard. Because I have my own little thing with my family right there. My sister, who lives right beside me, is in her own house with her own family. So when the minister says, and we all agree, that if you benefited once, you shouldn't benefit twice, we all agree with that. But how do we make sure that everyone that is denied because of an assumption like that, that it gets identified one, and that the research is done in a way to make sure that no needy person who should really qualify is disqualified.
Exactly.
These are some of the issues that we have on the ground. Then some communities are called clusters, and there's a whole bunch of clusters that as of yet, the government hasn't found a way to deal with. And we don't hear anybody talking about that. And I think I said it the last time I spoke as well, that there are damage levels that were actually altered after assessment, although they were inputted in the system correctly. What this means is that, I don't want to say
the life, people, like up the life.
But it means a change, a reduction
Please,
in terms
like
of what those families would have been entitled to, would have thought they were going to receive, in terms of what their conditions would demand. Again, there has to be a way to sort through these issues for persons with missing TRN numbers, missing phone numbers, and just being missing from the very database that they should be in. I've said it before, that these data fixes are absolutely essential to ensure that every Jamaican who deserves to receive a benefit, that they do. Now, where the real problem is of course the findings of the Auditor General. And probably the most shocking ones of this is that out of the 421 roofs reportedly repaired, the Auditor General could not independently verify not a single one to the required standard. Not even one. Just let that sink in.
Let that sink in. Not even one.
But in addition to that, there are no formal completion reports.
What?
There's no evidence that materials costing 167.3 million were actually delivered to or used for the intended beneficiaries.
Wow.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Security provided no written selection criteria, no evaluation process, and shockingly confirmed that verifying the works, the construction that is taking place is actually outside of their responsibility. If the ministry isn't verifying it, then who is? Right now, absolutely no one is accountable for ensuring that the right families receive the right support. You know, our members of parliament warned early that this program lacked accountability at the design stage. We have been saying that.
Yeah.
They flagged deep concerns about partisan bias in how assessments and distributions were being handled. And today, based on the Auditor General's findings, they seem to corroborate a procedural failure so systemic that leaves the door wide open for exactly the kind of manipulation we were talking about. And in the meantime, families are exposed to the elements. Children's education is being interrupted. The mental and emotional strain must be awesome. I can't even imagine what that is like. Delays and lack of transparency are eroding public trust and severely undermining future donor confidence. Now, we talk about these issues not because we want to damage the reputation of Jamaica, not because we want to ensure that in the future it's more difficult for us as a country to receive donations.
Right.
No, that's not why we do it. We do it because we understand the sacrifice that many made to make these donations. We also understand the need that exists and the fact that these individuals who are in need, for whom these funds were sent, have not been able to achieve what they could because their government failed them. We cannot fix damaged roofs with broken systems. We just can't. And so what we are demanding, as we have been doing, is full transparency. Publish full lists, verified lists of our roofs beneficiaries with clear parish level breakdown alongside the exact methodology used to select them. Our members of parliament, they have been asking for this. They are totally unable to track those individuals who come to them to say they were assessed or they thought they were assessed. They don't know where they fall. They have been totally unable to say, okay, I would have gotten 5,000 persons who came to my office. Let me see how many of them have gone through the system and how many of them have received something. It cannot continue like that.
Wow.
We also need independent verification, yes? Which will be able to publish an independent technical audit of all reported repairs.
True.
And this is extremely important. You have individuals who would have fixed their own house with a mixture of support from government and their own efforts. But yet, when they check at the parish office, it says that it was done by JDF, for example.
What?
Yeah, we have to sort out these things.
Come on,
individuals
really?
who would have gotten a grant from TDF.
Oh, that is low, bro. That is low. False reporting on repairs? Man, let me play that again. She said a lot of stuff that is wild, but man, what?
And their own efforts. But yet, when they check at the parish office, and this is extremely important. You have individuals who would have fixed their home.
No, Jamaica, me can't. These people keeping me busy, bruh. Man, I'm trying to fly through this thing, hear what's going on, highlight the, you know what I'm saying? But man, boy, they got me working, boy. Lord have mercy. They got me working, ladies and gentlemen. Woo, man. Miss Angela Brown Burke. Wow. I'm talking about, man. Ma'am. Boy, let me just get this screenshot, send it to my phone, because I need this. This is wild, bro. Anyway, let me talk to the people. So TikTok. I am live right now on YouTube. You can click the link in my bio and forward. Yo, I want to listen to this, because something wrong with me.
And this is extremely important. You have individuals who would have fixed their own house with a mixture of support from government and their own efforts. But yet, when they check at the parish office, it says that it was done by JDF, for example.
Hold up. I'm going to play that again, because I want to know if I'm hearing the same thing you're hearing. Are we hearing the same thing? I want to go back a little bit. Listen to this.
Let me see how many of them have gone through the system and how many of them have received something. It cannot continue like that.
Right.
We also need independent verification.
Independent.
Yes. Which would be able to publish an independent technical audit of all reported repairs. And this is extremely important. You have individuals who would have fixed their own house with a mixture of support from government and their own efforts. But yet, when they check at the parish office, it says that it was done by JDF.
Jamaica, do you know what this allows? This allows thieving. And let me break it down for you. You say, yes, I fixed their whole house and it cost this. When they didn't fix their whole house and it cost less. That money, gone. Thief. How dishonest. How, this is the level of this, yo, like, how do you take this people pain and suffering and exploit it in this manner? You know how much people need real help? Like, the money isn't enough already, bro. The individuals that are doing this, I'm telling y'all, man, y'all need to repent, bro. Y'all need to repent, bro. This, hey, God is not gonna, you know what I'm saying? Hey, if you don't repent, you already know what time it is. This is an absolute disgrace. Let me know what y'all think, man. Remember, I'm live right now. Come on YouTube. Click the link in my bio. Subscribe, join in, and catch the content, alright? Yo, this is crazy, bro. This is crazy.
We have to sort out these things.
Crazy.
Individuals who would have gotten a grant from TEF. I don't know how many persons remember that. We agreed with the minister when he said that if you have received from one program, you should not get from another. We agree. However, some government workers in tourism, in the same Ministry of Labour and Social Security, are individuals who were offered this assistance through TEF. But the TEF actually gives a bundle, 6 sheeters in, but a modest contributions, which is okay, because there are many individuals for whom that would have made a significant difference. But what is the issue? The issue is my house is totally damaged, and I get this from TEF. If you give me a minute on the back, I'm going to take it, because I'm going to hold it to see how I could put together something to fix my house. But then I'm told that I do not qualify for anything else. It then becomes a problem.
Of course.
A real problem.
Of course.
And so that is something that we have to look at.
Definitely.
If individuals who have received benefit from TEF falls in the categories that are totally destroyed or badly damaged, how do we handle that? Yeah. We also need to stop forcing poor people to travel miles to get answers.
Yes.
We need a decentralized disbursement system, as well as a query system, where people can easily ask and find information so they know what is the next step. In terms of what has gone before, I believe it doesn't end here. We still need to get some information from the government about how these funds have been spent, and if there are issues of accountability, if there are issues where contractors or officials need to be held responsible. We believe that this is the time when we have to make sure that action is taken. And as I close, I want to talk also about our shelters.
My God.
Anyone in a shelter now is obviously someone who has absolutely nowhere to go. And for the last 2 shelter relocation, which were so badly handled, I think we need to also make that call. We need to treat these individuals with the dignity they deserve, understanding that if they could have done otherwise,
they wouldn't have
would
been
not
there.
be in this situation today. So for the places to which they are being removed, we need to make sure that it is habitable, fit for humans to go there and to live. We need to also make sure that we are having ongoing, respectful conversations with these individuals. Not because you are in need, it means that person
should be disrespected.
As we say, in any old way.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
they are still human beings.
I agree.
These are still Jamaicans.
Yes.
You know, a 70-year-old man sent me a note to say that he has worked, and it touched me. He says he has worked all his life with government, giving to his country. He retired and he was fairly comfortable. He says he could never have believed that Melissa could have made him as destitute as he is today.
Wow.
With absolutely
nothing. Wow.
To lean back on.
Man, you hear that?
And so on behalf of that 70-year-old pensioner who now finds himself homeless, I am asking the government to have a conscience and to make sure that we do better for our people.
True, man.
Thank you.
Wow. That's powerful, man. You hear that, Jamaica? The man worked hard all his life. And Hurricane Melissa took away everything. He doesn't have nothing at all. Nothing but him life. Thank God for that, you know. But that is a humbling experience. It just tells you, like, for me, it says to me, like, you got to recognize what is really important in life. You do. Y'all tell me what you have. What does that tell you about what's important in life? Tell me. Hey, drop it in the comment section, man.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media,
Mr. Hilton,
members in the audience and those online.
Yes, sir.
You will hear more of the systemic problems and the issues that we are faced with in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa and really the shambolic state of the response from the government.
Hold up, shambolic, sir. You're sending me to Google. I've never heard that word before. Shambolic. The shambolic state. Shambolic. Oh, that's actual. Damn. And it's spelled like how me think. It means completely disorganized, chaotic, and heavily mismanaged. You know the word is fitting, and let me tell you why. You know when they say things are in shambles, so shambolic. I understand. Yeah. I should have picked that up. It's used to describe person's place or situation that is in a state of utter confusion and disarray. Shambolic. We learned a word. Somebody type shambolic in the chat right now. Shambolic. 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 Let's continue. Can't someone learn something tonight, you know?
So while much attention is rightly focused on the financial management failures identified by the Auditor General, there is a parallel crisis unfolding in Jamaica's ports, warehouses, and cargo facilities that has received far too little scrutiny. That is, the breakdown surrounding donated and procured relief goods intended for Hurricane Melissa victims. Individuals, community groups, diaspora organizations are being billed by freight and storage operators for delays caused by governmental inaction. In several documented cases,
there you go, freedom.
Individuals and organizations have had to make the painful choice between paying fees that have ballooned over the weeks and months or abandoning the goods entirely. This includes goods for which charitable certificates, which are certificates waiving most fees and charges, had been obtained with great effort. Neither outcome is acceptable. When those items are destined for families, who lost everything in Hurricane Melissa. Perishable goods, including food items, medical supplies, and other consumables, have been reported as having deteriorated or gone bad entirely, while awaiting clearance.
So Jamaica, the thing them really spoiled for you? Mighty God.
This represents not only a waste of donated resources, but a profound failure of the duty of care owed to both donors and intended beneficiaries. Jamaica is not unfamiliar with hurricanes. The government had an obligation, particularly following the lessons of Hurricane Beryl in 2024, to have in place a clear, published and operational logistics protocol for receiving, clearing and distributing relief goods in the event of a subsequent disaster. Nor is the annual Christmas choke point at the ports a surprise to the border agencies. This happens every year. Totally predictable. The Auditor General's report confirms that the disaster relief portal established by ODPEM in November 2025 was not used to generate reports on international donations and was only used as a means for donors to upload information. So it matters that they get the information, get the donation, but what happens to them, to the donation afterwards, is secondary, if it matters at all. A portal that receives information but produces no actionable management output is not a logistic system. It is a registration form. The result is that Jamaica presented itself to the world as a country in need of help, which we were, received that help, and then subjected the very people who responded with generosity to a bureaucratic and financial ordeal. That reputational damage extends beyond our shores, and it risks undermining future donor confidence in Jamaica's capacity to manage international assistance. We have to fix this. Small Jamaican businesses and diaspora-led organizations who mobilized quickly after Hurricane Melissa to ship relief goods are among those most severely affected. Many do not have the financial resources to absorb extended storage fees or the legal capacity to navigate the disputes that have arisen with freight operators. The government has offered no structured mechanism for relief, no compensation framework for donors who have incurred losses, and no public acknowledgement of the scale of this problem. That silence is not acceptable. So what then are the calls for action? The opposition calls on the government to immediately publish a full accounting of all donated goods that remain uncollected, in storage, or that have been abandoned at Jamaican ports and cargo facilities. Indeed, I would go further and to say they need to give a full accounting of those goods who they claim have been spoiled and shipped to the dump, because that record exists. The government must establish an urgent relief mechanism to waive or reimburse storage and demurrage fees incurred by donors of hurricane relief goods, and to facilitate the immediate clearance and distribution of any goods that can still be used. Looking ahead, the opposition demands that the government develop and publish a comprehensive disaster logistics protocol before the start of the 2026 hurricane season, covering customs clearance, port handling, cold chain management for perishables and medicinal and medical products, and coordination with freight operators, so that what happened after Hurricane Melissa is never repeated. Thank you.
The Auditor General's report highlighted significant weaknesses in financial management, governance, and program accountability with very limited transparency. I started the press conference by highlighting that of $1.44 billion received in donations from generous Jamaicans and donors internationally, The government had only spent $26 million of that. And we have heard the argument being made by the government. Senator Marlon Morgan said that this demonstrates the need for Narra because bureaucracy was what impeded the spending of that money. Let's expose that argument for the untruth that it is. If you examine the Auditor General's report in its entirety, it will tell you that not only was 88% of the monies donated was unspent, but it was uncommitted for spending. There was no expenditure plan. Now, bureaucracy slows committed spending. When you have allocated monies for a particular project and you run into some bureaucratic delay, then it delays that. But if you did not commit the money for any particular expenditure, then how do you anticipate in that regard that bureaucracy would slow the spending? It is unconscionable that only $26 million of the $1.44 billion was spent. And when I think of the thousands of Jamaicans who were hungry, who were sleeping under buildings without roofs or damaged roofs, and to think that the government sat on this amount of money that could have been directed in relief efforts is very unfortunate. The financial mismanagement did not stop at the amount that was left unspent. There were monies that could have been received, that could have been directed in relief efforts expenditure that were lost because there was no proper management. In fact, the Auditor General's report said that a financial services institution withheld over $15.7 million in donated funds beyond the agreed 45-day window. As a result of there being no formal agreement between that entity and ODPEN, it demonstrates a lack of proper management of the entire relief program. And it is very unfortunate that Jamaicans, having faced one of the most devastating natural disasters in the history of our existence, had to put up with this kind of governance failure on the part of the administration. But beyond that, it appears to be a pattern, a very unfortunate pattern that must be highlighted. Because the Auditor General's report said that coming out of Hurricane Burchell last year, there was 100...
Whoa. Sorry, thank you guys for being patient. Man, I have to go. Anyway. I have to touch back on this. Wow. I have to touch back on this. Yeah, I gotta go back a little. I'm gonna come back to the end of that, but I have to go back a little to the beginning right here.
You're faced with the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa and really the shambolic state of the response from the government. So while much attention is rightly focused on the financial management failures identified by the Auditor General, there is a parallel crisis unfolding in Jamaica's ports.
This is what I wanted. Yes. Yes. This part right here, this is criminal, ladies and gentlemen. Jermina Fleming, how you doing? Okay. Hi again, TikTok. It's your brother Bolo VNR. And you guys should notice a pattern in my videos. I only come on to highlight something that is super important. You guys remember when London 45 came out and told us that, you know, she's getting some news from the ports about containers of supplies and food spoil? Well, let's hear from Mr. Anthony Hilton, the logistics man for the PMP, and also the lawyer as well. Let's listen to him.
Warehouses and cargo facilities, and the attention is rightly focused on the financial management failures identified by the Auditor General. There is a parallel crisis unfolding in Jamaica's ports, warehouses and cargo facilities that has received far too little scrutiny. That is, the breakdown surrounding donated and procured relief goods intended for Hurricane Melissa victims. Individuals, community groups, diaspora organizations are being billed by freight and storage operators for delays caused by governmental inaction. In several documented cases, individuals and organizations have had to make the painful choice between paying fees that have ballooned over the weeks and months, or abandoning the goods entirely. This includes goods for which charitable certificates, which are certificates waiving most fees and charges, had been obtained with great effort. Neither outcome is acceptable. When those items were destined for families who lost everything in Hurricane Melissa. Perishable goods, including food items, medical supplies, and other consumables, have been reported as having deteriorated or gone bad entirely, while awaiting clearance. This represents not only a waste of donated resources, but a profound failure of the duty of care owed to both donors and intended beneficiaries. Jamaica is not unfamiliar with hurricanes. The government had an...
So you hear that? When name Arbin Hill, are him responsible for logistics, or is it Darrell Vaz? It all lead back to Andrew Honest. Jamaica. Election have consequences here. Telling you, you know say God did up to something, you know. On that day, September 3rd, I say, you know, say God up to something. Look how God got exposed the government. Who no want to see? You just lock your eye there. If you open your eye them a little bit, you can see everything that everybody else has seen. Just a little bit. Open your eyes, Jamaica. What a wicked government. Eh? Mighty God. No, man. Yo. It's unbelievable, bro.
Particularly following the lessons of Hurricane Beryl in 2024. To have in place a clear, published and operational logistics protocol for receiving, clearing and distributing relief goods in the event of a subsequent disaster. Nor is the annual Christmas choke point at the ports a surprise to the border agencies. This happens every year. Totally predictable. The Auditor General's report confirms that the disaster relief portal established by ODPEM in November 2025 was not used to generate reports on international donations and was only used as a means for donors to upload information. So it matters that they get the information, get the donation, but what happens to them, to the donation afterwards, is secondary, if it matters at all.
Wow.
A portal that receives information but produces no actionable management output is not a logistics system.
No.
It is a registration form. The result is that Jamaica presented itself to the world as a country in need of help.
Yeah?
Which we were.
Got the help.
Received that help.
Yes.
And then subjected the very people who responded with generosity to a bureaucratic and financial ordeal.
Oh my God, bro.
That reputational damage extends beyond our shores. And it risks undermining future donor confidence in Jamaica's capacity to manage international assistance.
Yes, of course.
Small Jamaican businesses and diaspora-led organizations who mobilized quickly after Hurricane Melissa to ship relief goods are among those most severely affected. Many do not have the financial resources to absorb extended storage fees or the legal capacity to navigate the disputes that have arisen with freight operators. The government has offered no structured mechanism for relief. No compensation framework for donors who have incurred losses, and no public acknowledgement of the scale of this problem. That silence is not acceptable.
Not acceptable.
So what then are the calls for action? The opposition calls on the government to immediately publish a full accounting of all donated goods that remain uncollected, in storage, or that have been abandoned at Jamaican ports and cargo facilities.
Wow.
Indeed, I would go further and to say they need to give a full accounting of those goods who they claim have been spoiled and shipped to the dump, because that record exists.
True.
The government must establish an urgent relief mechanism to waive or reimburse storage and demurrage fees incurred by donors of hurricane relief goods, and to facilitate the immediate clearance and distribution of any goods that can still be used. Looking ahead, the opposition demands that the government develop and publish a comprehensive disaster logistics protocol before the start of the 2026 hurricane season. covering customs clearance, port handling, cold chain management for perishables and medical products, and coordination with freight operators, so that what happened after Hurricane Melissa is never repeated. Thank you.
The Auditor General's report highlighted significant weaknesses in financial management, governance, and program accountability with very limited transparency. I started the press conference by highlighting that of $1.44 billion received in donations from generous Jamaicans and donors internationally, the government had only spent $26 million of that. And we have heard the argument being made by the government. Senator Marlon Morgan said that this demonstrates the need for Narra because bureaucracy was what impeded the spending of that money. Let's expose that argument for the untruth that it is.
Yes.
If you examine the Auditor General's report in its entirety, it will tell you that not only was 88% of the monies donated was unspent, but it was uncommitted for spending. There was no expenditure plan. Now, bureaucracy slows committed spending. When you have allocated monies for a particular project and you run into some bureaucratic delay, then it delays that. But if you did not commit the money for any particular expenditure, then how do you anticipate in that regard that bureaucracy would slow the spending? It is unconscionable that only $26 million of the $1.44 billion was spent. And when I think of the thousands of Jamaicans who were hungry, who were sleeping under buildings without roofs or damaged roofs, and to think
was still sleeping, I know was my general, Mr. Cleveland Thomas is still sleep, still people like, yo, let me tell you something, it is rough in the brother. You know how much things you have to give thanks for? It could have been me, it could have been my mother and I. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we was in that situation that we had to wait on government's help? That is inadequate in itself to help fix the roof upon the house. Mighty God. I'm telling you. It's tough, man.
That the government sat and this amount of money that could have been directed in relief efforts.
Wicked, man.
Is very unfortunate. The financial mismanagement did not stop at the amount that was left unspent. There were monies that could have been received, that could have been directed in relief efforts expenditure that were lost because there was no proper management. In fact, the Auditor General's report said that a financial services institution withheld over $15.7 million in donated funds beyond the agreed 45-day window. As a result of there being no formal agreement between that entity and ODPEN. It demonstrates a lack of proper management of the entire relief program. And it is very unfortunate that Jamaicans, having faced one of the most devastating natural disasters in the history of our existence, had to put up with this kind of governance failure on the part of the administration. But beyond that, it appears to be a pattern.
Yes.
A very unfortunate pattern that
very
must be
true.
highlighted.
Yes.
Because the Auditor General's report said that coming out of Hurricane Beryl last year, there's $138 million in donations that were unspent. So what we're finding here is that the government has a clear inability to make a proper expenditure plan to direct monies in relief efforts to assist the people who have been impacted by natural disasters. And this cannot happen. This has to be adjusted, particularly in light of the fact that we're heading into
another hurricane season. Yes.
Beyond that,
this is terrible,
the Auditor General's report found that there were clear breaches of compliance with respect to the National Disaster Fund. It says the National Disaster Fund held $163 million in its bank account and $203 million in investments as of February 2026. That is a substantial portion of public resources outside of the proper statutory oversight. In fact, the Auditor General identified 3 material areas of non-compliance with the Disaster Risk Management Act. The NDF has not been audited as a standalone fund for 5 consecutive years. And there were no annual reports and no statements of account presented And there wasn't a dedicated bank account to maintain the funds directed from donations for the purposes of relief distribution and recovery. This is clearly problematic. You know, when I think of the amount of mismanagement, the degree of the governance failure, particularly the amount of monies that were left unspent, the question that I think we should ask ourselves is, if the monies were not directed towards relief efforts, what were they being left unspent for? But more importantly,
very good question. Excellent question, my brother. What were they being left to spend on? Wow, that is the mystery. And I don't see anything positive coming from that answer. You know? You can only think negatively of what that money would be spent for.
I think we should ask,
oh my God,
where the money is being left unspent for? And when you ask those questions, I want you to think of the history of a litany of Auditor General's report that have pointed to misappropriation of funds, mismanagement, questionable acts regarding financial reserve statements of account for auditing. This must be made public so that the Jamaican people can have access to that information. All agreements governing the handling of donated funds in the immediate days after the passage of the hurricane, it was mostly donors, because the government's response was lethargic, was suboptimal, was fragmented, and ineffective. It was the donors who came to the rescue of the Jamaican people. And the opposition says to you, we stand fully behind the work that you have done. We stand fully behind the Auditor General's report. We regret that your monies, the money that you worked so hard and you donated, for the purpose of supporting relief efforts, were not deployed in that regard and were held in the government's coffers, unspent, idle, unutilized. We stand in full support and we commend the Auditor General, Pamela Monroe Ellis, and her team for the rigor and independence of this real-time audit. And what it demonstrates is the need for real-time audit in Narra. That's what it demonstrates. Recall, when Narra was being passed, one of the challenges, one of the lack of clear risk management functions that the opposition highlighted was that there was no audit committee. Auditor General's report, and what it has found demonstrates that the government should rethink how it approaches the audit functions in Narra and to equip the entity with a functional audit committee with clear risk management functions. I urge Jamaicans to get a copy of this report and read it, because the findings are outrageous. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and we await your questions.
Differently. So now, Cameron Francis from the Gleaner, what would the opposition have done differently to not get this done?
Good question.
Thank you for that question, Timon. Clearly, from the outset, we would have had an expenditure plan that would have detailed where the monies would go once received. Recall, the key challenge here with respect to the funds not being deployed is that there was no plan. And we think that that is a clear demonstration of lack of oversight, lack of thinking in terms of what needs to be done. The opposition from the outset would have developed a clear plan that would have taken into account what the needs are in the respective areas and would have ensured that when the monies come in, that they were deployed, that they would be deployed in areas needed. So that's where you have to start. And that is why we ground our recommendation in this reality, that there must be a clear plan of action. And if we were at the wicket, certainly this would not have been an occurrence. The monies would have been deployed and would have been used for relief efforts.
On the matter of
that person are bad. If me build back them house, how them a go vote? How me a go buy them vote next election? Wow.
what happened at the ports. We have been very consistent in calling for an institutional arrangement where the fragmentation in the different agencies doing things uncoordinated should end. I have made that call on several occasions. If you go back to any of my presentation in the House in the last 2-3 years, you'd have seen we have been calling for a council, a logistic council. And the purpose of that is to pull together the various agencies that operate on the port, border agencies, private sector operators, so that we have a 360-degree view of the problems and we're able to come together to resolve them. Unless and until that is done, we're not only going to continue to have the annual Christmas choke points But when disasters like this reoccur, and they might, I hope they don't, but when they reoccur, the response should be no different.
I also want to talk a little bit about what we would have done differently, certainly in terms of the whole assessment and the distribution of goods. The first thing is that the Disaster Risk Management Act actually places an obligation on ODPEM to liaise with the local groups, the local authorities and community groups in the disaster planning and in the aftermath. That was largely missing. What you find when you are working with local communities is that they are going to be able to tell you what is happening, which community persons have gone to and they're assessing, but they're not getting it right because of the peculiarities of those particular communities. Because there wasn't that kind of collaboration, all of that kind of institutional knowledge was lost. And therefore, it means that the way the program was conceived and how it was implemented was done from on high, and therefore you wouldn't be able to get from individuals who are on the ground. The other thing too is what we would have done differently. One of the things we would have done differently, for example, let's look at the money that's left from Burchell.
Come on.
Today, are we aware that there are individuals in Rocky Point shelter from Burchell up to today? And that for me is
what? Bro, that's what I'm saying. One good question, you know. Can you see? You see where this a question I bring up? Yo, bro, I did not know that. Alright, so TikTok. We just find out something that I did not know. When you remember the 138.8 million US dollars from Burchell and the 101,000 US dollars from Burchell, listen to this.
Therefore, it means that the way the program was conceived and how it was implemented was done from on high, and therefore you wouldn't be able to get from individuals who are on the ground. The other thing too is what we would have done differently. One of the things we would have done differently, for example, let's look at the money that's left from Burchell.
Yes.
Up to today, are we aware that there are individuals in Rocky Point shelter from Burchell? Up to today. And that for me is a clear action that we certainly would have taken. One is that there will be no individual who would have been affected from Burchell who is still out there in a shelter. That
Jamaica.
For me is just point number one.
Jamaica. How many of you knew that? I certainly did not. You're telling me from Hurricane Burchell, people are in a shelter from that time till now, and you guys sat down on 138.8 million Jamaican dollars plus 101,854 US dollars. I'm sure about the 101,000, but I don't know about the 854. But you get the picture. Wow. Wow. That is a gross level of mismanagement. How do you claim to care for the people when you don't check on the people to make sure that they're okay? Or did you have knowledge that these people are still in a shelter and just gave up on them? You're telling me that months after, 1 year after, 2 years after, mighty God, you could not do anything for these people in that position? You know, it's scary, because now, if I was a person that's a victim of Hurricane Melissa, looking at this reality that was just spoken a while ago, I would be terrified. I would be terrified, because now I understand what those men were saying in that video. If Andrew owners get the money, they will never see the money. From Hurricane Burchell. No, man. Jamaica? My goodness. No, son, I can't believe this, brother.
Other, you would have heard our members of Parliament who would have kept calling on the government to say they don't know what's happening locally and that individuals are coming to them for information and they have nothing to say. When we deal with disaster relief and we deal with post-disaster management, there's no place for colors nor partisan approach. An MP is an MP. A councillor is a councillor. These are elected positions that we have to honor, because what happens is once you are elected, you have to shed the partisanship. You become MP for the whole, you become councillor for the whole, you become a mayor with a responsibility. And I believe that pushing them to the side, the local authorities, the elected representatives, whether they were MPs or councillors, also meant that they were unable to actually benefit from their experiences and from their feedback in fixing the programming, the nuances that would exist from place to place.
I want to give an addendum to my responses there. Recall, Kimon, that from the outset, following the passage of Hurricane Melissa, we called for a committee.
Jamaica Maitland from TVJ, you mentioned that you require like a comprehensive expenditure of what the government intends to do with the funds, donated funds. Can you, if you were to make any recommendations as it relates to the greatest need right now to see where would majority of the money be placed? Almost 7 months after the hurricane, where do you see majority of the benefits being placed or majority of the relief being placed?
Right, I did make that recommendation for the government to publish an expenditure plan. The greatest need across the island right now with respect to the areas where we had significant damage is a need for shelter. If you speak to all the members of parliament, they will tell you that they have many constituents who are not living under any proper roof. That is problematic. So we think that the substantial portion of the relief efforts that have been unspent should be directed towards housing, should be directed towards ensuring that there is proper shelter. When you think of the fact that there are still people who need shelter, state-provided shelter, that's a clear demonstration that there's a need to deploy the money in that area. And we think that that is the greatest need as at this time.
Real talk. That's fact. That's easy. That's easy. That's easy.
Follow to my earlier question. How do you balance speed with efficiency and accountability? And in that regard, do you not give the government some grace?
You know, I keep saying that leadership is a balancing act that you always do, and that choice making is something that we do every single day. So yes, there is a balance between speed and efficiency. I am not sure what grace I would give the government when I look 7 months after. Yeah, maybe the first month. I remember the first couple of weeks when I went down to Westmoreland and I looked around and I saw the devastation. I couldn't quarrel because we were days out. Yeah, but 7 months out, there's absolutely no grace at this point.
No excuse. None.
What the government did is that they eschewed almost every other group that could have been part of a national response.
Yes.
And went on their own.
Yes.
And it did not work out.
Yes.
The details.
Yes.
I said it before. I believe that the plan that they had for, let's say, roofs, for example, was not designed with transparency, accountability, or fairness. And once those are missing, as far as I am concerned, there is no grace.
Do we have any question from anyone online? All right, so that wraps it up for our press conference today. I want to thank the Jamaican people for tuning in. I want to thank the members of the media for...
Man, I'm so happy that I listened to this because I totally missed those key details. London 45 was right. We got people from Hurricane Burchell still in shelter. Man, you got to be kidding me, bro. Oh, and then the logistics side of things, yo, no compensation, no nothing. Yo, the levels of, and then I learned a word called shambolic. All right, so we're gonna go to Queen of the South first. I save the best for last.
Burchell to Pdtv News.
Good evening, Andre. Hello, Pdtv. Myself, how to do?
We good. Me bone no nose. We good over here. Me bone no nose.
On a hearty.
Very hearty. Nickeisha Burchell. Why did you open your presentation last week in the Parliament using the mother tongue?
Because it was the most comfortable thing for me to do and the most uncomfortable thing to do.
This was my maiden sectoral presentation as opposition spokesperson on culture, creative industries, and information. And as you present yourself in a new capacity, I think you should try to find a way to bring some focus to the area that you're going to speak on. And with it being culture, I used literally 2 lines in the Jamaican language because I felt there was no more authentic way for me to begin a presentation on culture. It's culture. I was stopped almost immediately by this until then because I've already started conversations with our.
So we did go through the whole thing with no want to go to the other part of the interview.
Senator to work on a private members more. One, if you're a little fear, you can see somebody representing you. Why not also be able to hear yourself in Parliament? And that's what we were trying to do. Because Andre, what a big thing that has been coming out of, as I've been trying to navigate this portfolio is the need for what someone, I won't name him, but he called a cultural translator. He says that there's the need for someone who can interpret, if you will, and translate the concerns of the people in their language and in their reality into Parliament, while also translating Parliament back to the people. So too often our institutions sound so culturally distant from the people they're set up to serve. And so I want to see myself as part of that cultural translation team that is translating the culture of a Parliament to understand where our culture is now, where it's coming from and where we want it to go, but to also translate for the people what the Narra bill means, but not in these big highfalutin words that it will escape some of our people. We want to break it down into our culture, into our language, so they understand. And I want to big up, I can't remember her name now, but there's this TikToker online that my aunt sent to me the link to, where she was saying maybe the people them not understand in Parliament don't understand what the people them must struggle with, because the people that talk to them in a patois, maybe they just don't understand it. So there needs to be some cultural translation to get Parliament to understand people and people to understand Parliament.
Indeed. I know that we need to have a full discussion soon, because there are many pressing things that is happening in our nation. Absolutely. We're going to have a full discussion in the very near future about culture, the creative industries, and how we can really revolutionize Jamaica's economy. Tonight, though, as a spokesperson on information, you are one of this party's official spokesperson when it comes on to what is happening on the island. You are in one of those constituencies that were severely affected by Hurricane Melissa. And to hear that the government only spent 1.8% out of a whole of 100%, which accumulates to $26 million through the ODP. What is your constituent saying about this?
Well, Andre, I think it is such a slap in the faces of all of those constituents.
Like and share the video, guys. Let's go.
Every day at the NIS office in Parade, we call it Parade, Sam Sharp Square in Montego Bay, trying to get assistance, right? Wow. They go there daily and they're turned back to say no money exists. There's no help there for them. Sure. So this is a big slap in their face. And you know what irks me? I saw you posted someone from the media today stating how much did we expect the government to spend from this already.
Wait. I want Jamaica to see. Ishmael, can you put out the pronouncement from that news? Please and thank you.
Yeah, I was most taken aback by it. I mean, you can let me know when Ishmael is ready. But I was quite surprised that someone in the media is so out of touch, so far removed from the reality of the people. Maybe they should leave the studio and come into the constituencies and see what is happening. The families are angry. They're frustrated. They're exhausted. The truth is, they know they never give government nothing to put on. But this money is money that was donated to help their cause. Because disaster can affect anybody, you know. True. It just so happened that it affected us this time around. There are families still living as a tarpaulin. There's a young man in Cambridge. He is sleeping on cardboard beneath a staircase. There's a lady on her way up New Road, Chin, who's just living in a little bathroom like this with her daughter. And I'm picking out one-on-one cases because there's so many of them. And when you talk about it, Jamaicans hate to hear it so much. Some Jamaicans that they say, you know, you're putting the people's plight out there. But if I did not put out Bongo's plight, for example, out there, Andre, and Mr. Dassa, then you wouldn't have, and your viewers wouldn't have seen the need to assist them. There are families who still have not gotten any assistance from government. And to hear that millions
still remain in accounts for untold reasons is really hurtful. When Jamaicans hear these things, they understand now what I was saying, that I have been trying to get the Office of Disaster, ODPEM, to give me one signature so that this external team could give 25, a minimum of 25 homes to our constituency. This is a company that does this all across the world. All they wanted was an MOU between themselves and the government, because then they do this with all governments everywhere when they go in for disaster, because they have to interface with JPS, they have to interface with NWC, and this makes the process smoother for them. And that still hasn't come 7 months after Hurricane Melissa. So I'm not surprised at all that ODPEM is at the middle of this situation where the numbers are saying that money exists, and at least one more, even if they say no whole heap of money, 1 more, 2 more, 10 more families could be in homes tonight had the government had the compassion. Because it's past accountability. It's compassion they have.
I want Jamaicans to hear of this person. I want Jamaicans to hear tonight. I want Jamaica to hear what the representative at Nationwide News said. Listen to this.
Before we go to this guy, because he's going to piss me off, let me go to this. Jamaica, look at this. You see that? Can you see it good? Can you see that good? Alright, so it says the Gleaner, principal accused of $4 million Clifton land fraud to go on trial June 4th. The person sent me and said, look upon this. Remember how Andrew told us gangs were selling the lands in Clifton and bulldoze the people them home when it was a teacher in a school he opened in his constituency? The same school, I believe that Royal Reed was the principal. Jamaica, what can go so? One by one. One by one, Jamaica. One by one. Let us hear this buffoon now. Let us listen to this buffoon.
Here, what the representative at Nationwide News said. Listen to this.
For those saying that more ought to have been spent to help poor people, help people impacted, how much more would you have been satisfied with?
You know, I really ask God to help me. Yo, I couldn't do any same space with that brother. Couldn't. I can't believe he just said that. The question is an insult to the suffering of the people. That question is an insult to the burden that the people are going through that was affected by Hurricane Melissa. Just the question within itself. Man, this dude. Yo.
In other words, what portion of the 1.44 billion should we...
All of it. You big dummy. Every single cent. The need is greater than the $1.44 billion.
Reasonably have been spent already. That will cause you...
What do you mean already? It's been 7 months. You know, hard to spend 1.44 billion. You know, hard. Especially when so much people in need. Building supplies expensive. 1.44 billion is a drop in the bucket. 1.44 billion. It's a drop in the bucket to the amount of damage that people all across Jamaica had sustained. How much you think if you fix on a roof? Yo.
Up in arms about how much has been spent. And if the spending were done in a way where the premium was on getting the funds out, just spending the money that you have, just spend it. That was the aim.
Nobody said it's supposed to be about just getting the money out. This man is a baboon. And it's like a fool trying to fool sensible people. It's an insult to our intelligence. He should be removed. But then the whole station is a buffoon station that's pushing out a narrative for the government, not one of independent minds. A bunch of sellouts.
Is to spend the money to, as the critics say, to help those impacted get back on their feet.
What do you mean the critics say? You know the way how his tone is disrespectful. It's a valid criticism. He tries to invalidate. And he's clearly defending the government in his argument, in asking dumb questions. What the hell is that?
Could that spending have been done within the rules? The rules that have been set for any government in office to follow.
You know, so I don't want to hear no more of this. We just go to Keisha. People wanna watch Andre's show and listen to what I hear that. Listen, I get too mad in the night.
Nickeisha. Yes. What you want to say to him, because you're on this program,
she was very diplomatic.
So I've given you a chance to lead the conversation.
Go ahead.
Well, I wasn't able to hear him just now, but from my recollection of what he said today, as the spokesperson for information, and this person being a past head of the association that deals with media, I'm disappointed that he has not taken it upon himself to go into these communities to see what people are experiencing. So to sit...
Basically what she's saying is that you are out of touch, Jazz Davis. You're misinformed. You're not qualified to speak on the subject because you don't know what the people are going through. Let me just break that down for those who don't understand. And for George Davis especially. Yes, that's why I call you a buffoon.
Soapbox in your comfortable bed under a roof that is not leaking like a sieve, to have a warm place to put your children for blanket, to cover them, and to be assured that when you turn your key in your lock, you will feel safe and protected from the elements and from other human interests. Try for a moment to see if you could apply a little empathy to the mothers, to the children, to the young people who still don't know where them go sleep tonight. You understand? It is now the rainy season. June is upon us. The hurricane season is here, and already think about the illnesses that are going to break out. So even from a sense of personal enlightenment, or even to protect himself,
from a position of compassion.
Of compassion even, but thinking about even himself, if he feels that he's protected in his enclave, think what will happen if people in Jamaica outside in the elements get sick and some epidemic breaks out. You're no longer protected, even if you're going to think about it from a self-interest perspective. But apply a little empathy, apply a little compassion. We need people in the media who has the ears of the listening public to have some more sympathy, a little bit more empathy and humanity.
Yes.
It really broke my heart to hear it. Really broke my heart to hear it.
I'm calling for a commission of inquiry into how the monies are being spent by this government. Do you think that is something the opposition would entertain?
Oh, but we must. Andre, the opposition from the get-go, we sought to work with the government in terms of their design, where they think they want to go with, with the hurricane relief programs. And we did not stand in their way. We did not agree. I mean, when they first announced X amount for here, X amount for there, we were like, that really can't work. But of course, they're not listening to us. 6 months later, 7 months later, we're saying that those issues still have not worked out themselves, and people are still left vulnerable. And just before, all of the rich people start to complain, the rich people from Twitter, we're not saying that the government owed people them to build them houses, right? But it is a disaster, a national disaster, happened all across the parishes across the island. They were not bad lucky them, right? A bad lucky them, bad lucky that. I feel them house smash up and not yours.
Yes.
We not what people donated, and we want what people donated to the people. And get the money to the people because the money is there. The roofs program has been a problem. How it has been managed, and no Narra can fix it. What we're seeing is that systemically there are issues and weaknesses across government. Government not really managing because they're spending so much of their effort on public relations. It's not about prettying up things. Let's hear the people. The people them say they're not. We're going to the NI's office and they're saying they have no relief for us. We're going to the NI's office and they say that they are not going to be assisting us because we might have gotten 2 sheets of zinc from somebody else. Listen to the people. A sign that they have no intention of listening to the people is that for a disaster.
Did you see the video of the lady who said she's a tourist worker?
Yes.
It's really bad.
Did you see the video of the man who says he's from Clarendon, from the Labour Minister's constituency, and that he has asked for help and has not received that kind of help? You understand? It is all over. It's all over, and to hear that money in our account put on, I wait for what? Me no know. It's really frustrating. But I want to thank those people who have come on board to help us out. I want to thank Pdtv, Andre Stevens and their family.
True.
I want to thank Mr. McFarlane and his team from CM Recycling there in Kingston. Right now, as we speak, his staff members are up in Rosemount in Cambridge, helping a mother and her children to go into a modular home, and the rain come down on them never finish it, so the house will finish tomorrow. I want to thank Isia Madden and her team who gave us, and you'll hear some more about it, who gave us 10 homes, 10 modular homes. I want to thank all of the people, PJ Patterson and his team. I want to thank the sharp.
PJ still at work, bro. Jano, bro.
Charmaine Gonzalez and her family. Other private persons have come on and asked not to be named. But there are people who are helping us out, one family at a time. I want to thank the Jamaica Relief Mission. Right now they have a team on the ground helping to construct some homes. You notice who we're thanking? Private interests.
Yes.
My God.
Private interests have stepped up. More than the government has stepped up. And it's a pity. I thank them for sticking to us because the Prime Minister did tell them to stop, because he did say that he don't like to see how his people are being represented through their eyes. But thank God they never listened and they've stuck with us. God bless them and bless their businesses and their families.
But Nickeisha, you know, if I got even a quart or half of that money that Andrew Willis got through the ODP, you know that the people in Western Jamaica will be better off and get a decent.
Yo, man, I tell you, so the money would have done. Anywhere did Andre get that money there? Not even 1 cent would be unaccounted for. Every single receipt, Jamaica. You know how much people Andre would have helped? 1.44 billion. Mark Wallen and the PMP get 3 point something million. And the man them spend 4 million odd. Him add to it, him never take away. But the person I want to say is a black man. So I want to vote for black man. Rob, hey. Not Rob. Have the money put on and for what? And people are suffer.
Well, we've absolutely seen how you have turned your hand make fashion. How you have, use your mickle and make muckle. I'm just saying that there are people who work with compassion. There are people who understand how to care for people with the little they have. Some people just out of touch and not really truly understanding that people are in great distress. Great distress.
So, people are saying, why is the opposition not taking to the streets? Why Mark Golding and yourself not taking?
Listen to this response. I want you guys to listen. I want you guys to pay attention. Oh my God. I want you guys to pay attention to this response. Yes, un momento. Un momento.
street. The people say they're tired of the press conferences, tired of you guys standing in the parliament. They're asking for you all to take to the streets. What's your response to them at this time?
I'm a slave of the people, and I'm a slave of the people's will. I accepted their will September 3, and I'm willing to go with the temperature and the mood of the people, because that's what representatives do.
Yo, this lady, I'm telling y'all, man, she's brilliant, bro. She's brilliant. Listen how she answered that question. Jamaica, what's your temperature and mood? This is literally the same answer that Mark Golding gave, but in less words. Mark Golding said, are you guys coming? And then he explained further. So clearly there has been a discussion. Clearly there has been a discussion. Clearly. Between the People's National Party about protesting and organizing a protest. Well, the question is, will you come? Man, oh man, boy. Man, oh man. Man, oh man. Jamaica. Shout out to Pdtv. Listen to this question that Andre asked Nickeisha Burchell.
People with the little them have, some people just out great distress.
Listen to this.
So, people are saying, why is the opposition not taking to the streets? Why Mark Golding and yourself not taking to the street? The people say they're tired of the press conferences, tired of you guys standing in the parliament. They're asking for you all to take to the streets. What's your response to them at this time?
I'm a slave of the people, and I'm a slave of the people's will. I accepted their will September 3, and I'm willing to go with the temperature and the mood of the people. Because that's
Jamaica, what is your temperature and your mood? Are you guys serious about taking it to the streets? That is the perfect answer, but she'll continue.
What representatives do. We reflect the will of the people. I understand that frustration completely for anybody who is saying that we should be doing this, because people are hurting, and when people are hurting, they naturally want to see urgency, emotion, and visible action. But opposition work is not only about taking to the streets. Yeah, opposition work is also about oversight. It's about exposing failures, forcing accountability, representing communities, and putting pressure on systems through every democratic avenue available, whether inside
every democratic avenue available. I want you to listen to the response.
Parliament, outer parliament, through committees, through accountability, representing communities, and putting pressure on systems through every democratic avenue available, whether inside parliament, outer parliament, through committees, through public advocacy, or directly in communities. And I can tell you though, Andre, that those of us representing affected constituencies, we have not stopped fighting on these issues every single day. We have been in the communities, we've been documenting the suffering, we've been raising the concerns in parliament, we're pushing ministries, we're challenging agencies, and we're advocating constantly for better delivery and faster relief. But I also understand the emotional point people are making. Jamaicans are frustrated because they feel like too many people are still suffering while the system moves too slowly. And honestly, that frustration is legitimate. I can't wrong them. The larger issue here is that people want to feel seen, heard, and prioritized. They want to feel like leadership matches the urgency of their reality. So I think when Jamaica is ready for the next step, they will let the PNP know, and the PNP will be ready to march with them if march is what they want. But the people must be ready for that.
Jamaica, you have not shown that you are ready for that. When you are ready, the PNP is ready. She said the exact same thing, but in more detail than Mark Golding. You guys go look at my video that I posted of Mark Golding earlier and his response to this same question. Salute to the Queen of the South. Yes, ma'am. I'm telling you.
You're in Montego Bay. What is the mood of Montego Bay right now?
Oh boy, I'm sure you'd have heard of what happened to Burchell in Granville. The lady who was shot and killed by the security forces.
Who was murdered?
Murdered. accurate, murdered by the security forces today. Not today, yesterday. So what is happening now in terms of the mood is that everybody is just up in arms. Up in arms. The tension is...
Hold on, honey. I want to stop my while ago. What just happened? Oh, man. The man them cut off the sound, Jamaica. What is this? Here there. Nothing else. Oh my God, bro. Unbelievable.
Affected constituencies. We have made up with some activities, and I'm a slave of the people's will.
Boy, people are saying, why is it up?
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to listen carefully to this question that Andre Stevens asks Nickeisha Burchell. I hope that this video actually has sound on it. Let's go.
Great distress.
I don't understand what just happened. It's crazy.
People are saying, why is the opposition not taking to the streets? Why Matt Golding and yourself not taking to the street? The people say they're tired of the press conferences, tired of you guys standing in the parliament. They're asking for you all to take to the streets. What's your response to them at this time?
I'm a slave of the people, and I'm a slave of the people's will. I accepted their will September 3, and I'm willing to go with the temperature and the mood of the people, because that's what representatives do. We reflect the will of the people. I understand that frustration completely for anybody who is saying that we should be doing this, because people are hurting, and when people are hurting, they naturally want to see urgency, emotion, and visible action. But opposition work is not only about taking to the streets. Yeah, opposition work is also about oversight. It's about exposing failures, forcing accountability, representing communities, and putting pressure on systems through every democratic avenue available, whether inside parliament, out of parliament, through committees, through public advocacy, or directly in communities. And I can tell you though, Andre, that those of us representing affected constituencies, we have not stopped fighting on these issues every single day. We have been in the communities, we've been documenting the suffering, we've been raising the concerns in parliament, we're pushing ministries, we're challenging agencies, and we're advocating constantly for better delivery and faster relief. But I also understand the emotional point people are making. Jamaicans are frustrated because they feel like too many people are still suffering while the system moves too slowly. And honestly, that frustration is legitimate. I can't wrong them.
True.
The larger issue here is that people want to feel seen, heard, and prioritized.
Right.
They want to feel like leadership matches the urgency of their reality. So I think when Jamaica is ready for the next step, they will let the PNP know, and the PNP will be ready to march with them if march is what they want. But the people must be ready for that.
Jamaica, what is your temperature? Are you ready for what you're asking for? All the people talking about the PNP is soft and all of this nonsense. You guys are not ready. Where were you when the PNP was fighting for you guys all of the year before last? All the times they brought they went through all the legal ways of protecting our rights. I mean, they called you guys to come and protest, and it wasn't enough. Enough people was not out there. You understand? It's just the truth. You guys cannot be bothered. You're just not ready for real change. So, until the pressure busts on the pipe, the PNP are wait for pressure bust on the pipe. When they're not ready for act, they will come and support. Simple as that. Not true? No, sir, go.
You're in Montego Bay. What is the mood of Montego Bay right now?
Oh boy. I'm sure you'd have heard of what happened to Burchell in Granville. The lady who was shot and killed by the security forces.
Who was murdered?
Murdered. Accurate. Murdered by the security forces today. Not today, yesterday. So what is happening now in terms of the mood is that everybody is just up in arms. Up in arms. The tension is palpable. Every supermarket you go in, every gas station, every taxi you're in, that is the conversation. Everybody's talking about the callous way we approached a citizen of this country. They're likening it to what happened in Minnesota a couple of months ago, a couple of weeks ago in America.
Yes.
Was the threat of force to the police commensurate to the action?
Certainly was.
People are debating that right now tonight. And is it that we're trying to pitch the people against the police? You understand? In terms of the temperature here in Western Jamaica, the homelessness is getting to the people because they've tried. They've tried the best they can. They've tried to listen to the instructions from the government to go down to the office at the NIS, and God don't feel it for the people at the NIS, and nothing is moving for them. The roads they have to journey on every day, it takes a toll out of you. It tired you before you reach your work, you're tired. And then you have to get up 2 hours earlier to beat the traffic. And then you have to leave work at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and fight to get on a bus to go back in the same bad way. So what is the temperature down here? Frustration. Frustration, exhaustion, and hopelessness mixed in with the homelessness.
Hopelessness, homelessness, and on top of homelessness.
A whole mess.
A whole mess.
A whole messness. A whole messness. When you type a whole messness, one word. A whole messness. Dang, that's tough. A whole messness. Oh.
Bring you back soon to this conversation.
Sure.
What are you? It's because I have so many issues to take on with a very unorthodox position tonight. I don't want you to get in any trouble on the media.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you very much.
I'm very considerate of that. What are your final words to Jamaica?
My final words to Jamaica is that two things. Our culture is ours. It is the gift of our foreparents. And if we do not take stock of our culture and take advantages of the blessings that they have given us, we're going to lose our culture.
True.
Not only lose it in terms of memory and institutional relevance, but we're going to lose it in terms of the value it can add to our lives, socially and politically, as well as economically. Our culture is not decoration. Our culture is infrastructure. And if we treat it the same way we treat our best infrastructure, then we stand to gain tremendously from it. That's one. And the second thing I want to ask is, let us not lose our humanity in everything that we're going through. Whether it is homelessness or hopelessness, don't lose your humanity. Whether it is when you come in contact with the police and the security forces, don't lose your humanity. Whether it is when you go to the NIS office to try to get some help, don't lose your dignity, don't lose your humanity. When we lose our humanity as Jamaicans is when all things gone through the door and we no longer have an identity that is respectful, respectable, and one that we can be proud of. We're proud Jamaicans and we're going to get through this together with or without the government.
Nickeisha, Burchell, our future is bright in the politics, Jamaica. I just want to say to you, keep doing what you're doing. Keep conversing, keep advocating, and keep triggering them.
Thank you.
Triggering them.
Thank
Until then, Jamaica.
One Nickeisha Burchell. It's a short interview, but a necessary one. We're going to go to the meat and potatoes of the matter now, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Jefferson Golding, interview with Portland Spice TV. Let's go.
All right, okay.
Blessings. Honorable Mark Jefferson Golding.
Hey,
Good
Colin,
evening,
what's
sir.
up?
Welcome to Portland Spice TV. It's a sad evening, opposition leader.
It is.
Very sad evening with that video that is making the rounds. You know, very, very, very sad. You want to say anything about it before we get into Narra?
Well, I can only say that because it is so shocking. In this instance, the police killing a woman. And clearly the circumstances look like there was excessive use of force, unjustifiable force, and so on. You know, my only hope is that this will jolt the powers that be to look again at the way in which they deal with things in the force. You know, we support the police, you know, we support the work they do. We think they've done a tremendous job in the last couple of years in particular in reducing the murder rate. But there are just too many of these incidents, you know. And in this case, the irony of it is that a camera is what has made the difference and why, you know, there's very little doubt about what happened. And of course, they have been resisting.
That's an excellent point. What's up, Errol? That's an excellent point. Medea man. That's an excellent point. The first point that he made is ironic that a camera was the reason why we have gotten greater context to what took place at that scene. I know people's eyes are opening up. Wow.
although they don't couch it in those terms. You know, they have been resisting implementing the use of cameras, body cams, especially on the specialized operations. And one is wondering what will it take to get them to recognize that there's no principled basis for refusing to use these cameras. If you are behaving in accordance with the force orders and the law, the camera will protect you from allegations that you weren't.
Yes.
On the other hand, if you have transgressed, there will be accountability.
Yes.
And we're in favor of accountability.
Of course.
The country's in favor of accountability, I believe.
And people want to defend the police if the police acting in the right manner. We want to defend them.
Of course we do.
We're not against the police.
No, I mean, I have a good working relationship with the police in my constituency. I'm the divisional commander and his team. You know, but we have had incidents this year in my constituency which have been very sad and have let me feel a bitter taste in my mouth as well. So when I see this happening yesterday in Granville, you know, my only hope is that something positive can come out of it. You know, as much as it's a terrible thing and we mourn for the lady's family and so on.
Yes.
You know, at the same time, if it can nudge change, if it can bring about a different attitude or position on the critical issue of accountability, then at least something positive would have come from this terrible.
That's right.
So that is my hope.
Yes. Let's get right into it, opposition leader. The Narra bill. A lot of people are talking about this bill. A lot of people don't understand what is in the bill. A lot of people have not seen the bill. They are just hearing what people are talking. We saw in the debate your attempt to go clause by clause, and you were basically stopped. Take us where you want to take us as it relates to this Narra bill, opposition leader. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. What I would say first of all is essentially what happened in the House when we were debating the Narra bill is that there were many clauses in the bill which were problematic mainly from the point of view of the fact that they did not contain the normal checks and balances that one would expect in setting up a new entity like that. So I was putting forward amendments to bring them into line as I saw it. Unfortunately, none of those amendments, or very few of them, were received positively. So there were some amendments made in the course of the passage of the bill through the House, but those were amendments that the government chose to make rather than amendments which we were calling on them to make to change the fundamental flaws in the bill. Yes. They didn't see it necessary to do that. So what is the Narra legislation? The Narra is an acronym, it's a word used from the initials of each of the words in the name of the bill. So it's National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority. And that's where Narra comes from. National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act, as it's known after Parliament. And essentially what it was seeking to do was to create a platform, an entity, a statutory body, which would implement projects that the government wishes to push forward with. And these are either projects that are financed by the public sector or projects financed by private investment. And in the latter case, in the category, the private investment.
Signal.
We're not hearing your opposition leader.
Don't take collagen before watching this. Most people scoop expensive collagen powder into their...
We're hearing you now. Go ahead. We lost the opposition leader.
Into the glitch.
Yeah, continue.
In case of private investment, the threshold for a project to be brought under the Narra framework is $15 million. In the case of a public investment project, it's up to the government or the cabinet to determine what projects they wish to bring under. And indeed, it's also up to them to put any private project that meets the necessary threshold onto the list of what they call it strategic investment projects or something like that. They have a phrase for the private sector projects that come under Narra. Narra is, as I've said, a statutory body. What does that mean? It means that it is like a company. It has the ability to own property in its own right. It can be sued or sue in its own name.
Yes.
There are characteristics of a statutory body that are set out in another piece of legislation called the Interpretation Act, and which are applied to Narra by a provision in the Narra bill. So it's a statutory body, but it's a very peculiar statutory body. And the main peculiarity of it is the fact that it does not have a board. Normally, a statutory body is set up under a law, a statute, and has those powers of a statutory body. Its functions and its purposes are set out in its legislation. And a board is created by the legislation, usually with the constitution of that board, the rules applicable to that board, set out in a schedule to the legislation. In the case of Narra, there is no board. And this is very strange. I've never heard of a statutory body without a board. And it was a major fight that we had in the parliament because we did not think that was appropriate. Because Narra is going to be responsible for undertaking massive projects with resources much of which will be borrowed by Jamaica from international lenders. That envelope of financing that the Prime Minister had spoken about in December coming out of Melissa, where our international lending partners, the IMF, the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and a bank in the region in Latin America called CAF, I think it's name, were saying that they would provide $6.7 billion of funding to help Jamaica. Yes. Now, most of that funding, over $4 billion of it, is loans, is debt.
Oh.
Which have to be repaid with interest.
So if we don't spend it wisely, we have a problem.
If we don't spend it wisely, we have big problems.
Big problems.
So that's why it's very important that what Narra does, because Narra is the entity that is going to be spending that money. And it's very important that Narra is accountable for how it does that. The money that it receives, or the money that it controls, the projects that it undertakes, the decisions that it makes, etc. There should be full transparency as to what it's doing, and there should be accountability for what it's doing. And the absence of a board means that it has a major flaw. I describe it in the parliament as an aberration. Narra is an aberration because it does not have a statutory board, even though it's a statutory body.
What the Prime Minister is saying is that the board is what is going to slow down the process, and that's what they are running away from. What do you have to say about
Listen to this.
I don't know whether that was really the reason he put forward, because he was articulating that he's establishing a board outside of the legislation, which he has a name for, JAMAICA. And he has said that a person of Jamaican parentage, I believe, an academic in the US, well known, was going to be the chairman of this board. But this board is just going to be something which the PM sets up. It will have no legal powers and it will have no legal status. It's not mentioned in the Narra legislation. It's not created by the Narra legislation. There's no reporting relationship under the Narra legislation between this board called JAMAICA and Narra itself. In fact, Narra has a section which creates secrecy obligations for its staff, and begs the question, how will information even be shared by Narra with JAMAICA?
What are those secret obligations? Don't leave that opposition leader. Tell us about those secrecy obligations.
The provision says that any document that is created within Narra is to be treated as secret by its staff, including its CEO, who we can get to next.
Yes.
And that if that secrecy obligation is violated, it's a criminal offense. So
if a staff of Narra sees something that they believe that this violates the law or this goes contrary to good governance or good spending, and they report it, what happened to that worker?
Now, there is an exception to secrecy where the disclosure is made pursuant to some other law. Okay? But the question to my mind is, how will that be determined? So, for example, given that JAMAICA, this board, has no legal status, is not created under any statute, JAMAICA is not in a position to say that information should be shared with it because that information is secret, and JAMAICA wouldn't fall within that exception of being an entity that a law requires information to be shared with. So, in the original bill that was tabled, because remember the Prime Minister tabled the Narra bill during his budget speech. You may remember that.
Right.
That bill was withdrawn subsequently, and a new bill was tabled which replaced it. Well, the bill that was withdrawn had set out a number of exceptions to the secrecy obligation, several of them. But that was all removed. And instead, what they had is this general formulation, which says that if there's disclosure of this secret information,
You are losing your muscle. If you're over 60, don't ignore that.
There you go.
is
Touch your back a little.
removed. And instead, what they had is this general formulation, which says that if this disclosure of this secret information is pursuant to another law, then it's permissible. But it raises a lot of questions. I, for example, asked whether if the court, if Narra is involved in litigation, and the court wants to make an order of discovery in that litigation, would that fall within the formulation? Because normally when we talk about pursuant to another law, we mean written law, statutory. That was not answered to my satisfaction. So, as a result of this, I think that JAMAICA is a construct which is not properly thought through. I don't think it can play the role of holding Narra accountable. It has no legal status, it has no obligations to the Jamaican people. He was using the construct that was set up during the IMF program, EPOC. And he said that was a model that he was drawing on. But the two things, it's fish and fowl. It's apple and pear. It's not far. They're not comparable things.
Right.
EPOC had no resources to manage or disperse. EPOC was simply reporting to Jamaica on Jamaica's performance under the IMF program, using data, macroeconomic data, published by Statin, the Bank of Jamaica, and so on. Narra is totally different. Narra is an entity, is an enterprise that's going to be conducting transactions, massive transactions over years to come.
That's going to be given money to spend.
Yes, which will be appropriated resources through the budgeting process that Jamaica has borrowed and will be spending through Narra. And yet it has no board. And the board that exists, supposedly, has no legal status. No
supposedly.
So I felt that was
crazy.
A very inappropriate arrangement fraught with potential problems.
Isn't the difference, the opposition leader, that EPOC was basically supervising the Minister of Finance, who is an elected person operating with the cabinet. So therefore, it's just to say that the government is doing the things that they ought to do. And the difference with Narra will be given taxpayers' money, the loan money that taxpayers will have to pay back, to basically spend as the Prime Minister desires.
Yeah, in a nutshell.
Right?
I mean, in a nutshell, that's right. I mean, I wouldn't say that EPOC supervised the minister. EPOC reported on a quarterly basis on the performance of the Jamaican economy, and they did so publicly. So they issued a report every quarter with certain deliverables that are set out in the IMF program, various economic ratios and so on, and how Jamaica was actually performing relative to what it agreed to do in the IMF agreement. So that was essentially just a monitoring role. It wasn't providing any governance oversight of employees who are taking public resources and spending it, entering into contracts, dealing with agencies of government. And that's where I think we need to go next, is how Narra sits in the overall government system.
Hold on, opposition leader. Somebody in the chat room is asking, under which legislation will JAMAICA be governed?
None. There's no legislation that will apply to JAMAICA. JAMAICA is purely an administrative construct appointed by the Prime Minister. Essentially, it's a committee that is set up. It has no legislative powers. It has no legislative existence.
Wow.
So, let's go where you want
to go. No, it doesn't have any teeth. It cannot do anything. It's essentially a PR entity, JAMAICA. Rubbish, Jamaica, rubbish.
So, Narra, having been told that these are the projects that the cabinet has put on the official list, has responsibility for executing those projects. And these projects would need to go through the normal approval process for any project in Jamaica. So we have the local authorities, which is the municipal corporations, used to be called the parish council. They have to look at it and make sure that the design of the project doesn't breach their rules and regulations. They don't think that there's anything in the project design which could be damaging to people in the vicinity of the project or create undue problems, traffic problems, water problems, and so on. They have NRCA, which is the National Resource Conservation Authority, now called NEPA. They have to look at the project from an environmental perspective to ensure that the project does not unduly damage Jamaica's natural environment. And there are all sorts of other agencies that have a role in approving a project. The fire department has to approve the arrangements for managing fires.
Yes.
You know, the road authority has to deal with that, their side of it, the water commission, etc. All of these are called, I think, approving agencies in the Narra legislation. And the way Narra is set up is that Narra is empowered by the Act to tell approving agencies essentially what to do in relation to a project. So if a project comes before Narra and Narra wants to execute the project, it can tell all the agencies what sequence they must review the project in, or whether they must review the project all at the same time, so that one won't have the benefit of the thoughts and input of another.
Whoa! Wait a minute. What? Wait, yo. I just caught that. That is deadly. That is deadly. That is deadly. I did not know that, you know. How many of you knew that? What? Wow, bro. We are in trouble. Yeah, I gotta, you guys caught me in the lab, okay? You heard? We are in the lab with this one. You know how much? Damn, really? That's crazy, bro. I gotta play that back.
Approving agencies, essentially what to do in relation. These are called, I think, approving agencies in the Narra legislation. Yes. You know, the road authority has to deal with that, their side of it, the water commission, etc. All of these are called, I think, approving agencies in the Narra legislation. And the way Narra is set up is that Narra is empowered by the Act to tell approving agencies essentially what to do in relation to a project. So if a project comes before Narra and Narra wants to execute the project, it can tell all the agencies.
Yo, I've never heard it framed like this. Real talk. Yeah. Jamaica, listen to this. I've never heard it framed like this by anybody. I want you guys to listen to something that Mark Godin explain about how Narra works. Listen to this.
The water commission, etc. All of the other fire department has to approve the arrangements for managing fires.
Yes.
You know, the road authority has to deal with that, their side of it, the water commission, etc. All of these are called, I think, approving agencies in the Narra legislation. And the way Narra is set up is that Narra is empowered by the Act to tell approving agencies essentially what to do in relation to a project. So if a project comes before Narra and Narra wants to execute the project, it can tell all the agencies what sequence they must review the project in, or whether they must review the project all at the same time, so that one won't have the benefit of the thoughts and input of another. If there's a provision or if a decision is made which Narra doesn't like, Narra can complain about that. And if there are conditions, which there always are.
Complain to who? Who does Narra complain to?
Well, at first blush, Narra would complain to the authority, the approving authority, and it can issue directives, formal directives, to that body as to how it should make its decision. And if they don't comply with those directives, then Narra can go to the PM, and this is what the law now says, and ask the PM to step in and make that decision himself. And there's a recent parallel here, because you'll recall that the Constitutional Court just ruled that in a situation which happened before now, in relation to the Dry Harbour Mountains, where a private company had applied to be able to quarry in the Dry Harbour Mountains on land that it had acquired. And the NRCA/NEPA, the environmental body, said, no, we're not granting that permit because that is a very environmentally important and sensitive area. And it's an area where there's forest, which is in the same condition that it was when Columbus came to Jamaica in 1494. So they refused it. An appeal was brought by the company, and that appeal went to the PM. And ultimately, that appeal was allowed.
Yeah, advertisement, is it?
Project. And ultimately, that appeal was allowed, and they were permitted to undertake the project. At which point, various residents in that location who would be impacted by the project brought an action, a lawsuit, in the Constitutional Court to contest that decision by the Prime Minister. And they won because the Constitution creates a right to a healthy environment. And the court said that based on the evidence before it, it was likely that that right would be infringed by this project. And hence there was no compelling reasons that were provided for that right to be superseded by the private interests of this developer, this foreign company. So they ruled that that is at an end. Now I hear the government wants to appeal that, but I think it was a very important decision. But why I raise it is because it shows an instance where the Prime Minister has stepped in to overrule, in a sensitive issue, a government body, a public body that has statutory responsibilities for that particular area, the environment in this case.
And that's the same power the stepping orders in Narra is giving him now, right?
Correct. But in this case, the stepping powers that he has are general. It would apply to any approving entity. Any entity that may impose a condition or refuse a particular project approval or otherwise act in a way which Narra is not happy with can be referred by Narra to the PM, and he can then step in and make the decision himself. And what's furthermore, there's no obligation, to publish the directives that are issued by Narra to approving entities. This was another amendment we had saw.
Wow.
We said, for transparency.
No, listen, I'm not even going to go into that. Jamaica, the government can tell the agencies that are there to protect our constitutional rights. The fire department, the one that NEPA, all of them, that protects us, right? Or should, that's their mandate, right? Protect us from capital vultures. The Prime Minister has the right pretty much to guide the process in such a way that they all have to do their checks all at the same time. So normally it would go in a sequence depending on the project for context, right? And they could thwart the process, pretty much circumvent any type of reporting that would come out to say, oh, you guys shouldn't do this. And even if they were to tell them that they shouldn't do it, the PM can pretty much override it. And what Mr. Golden is saying, this is very serious, and what Mr. Golden is saying is that, listen, we have seen an instance where the Prime Minister has already done that and he failed to protect the people of Jamaica. Can you imagine what he would be able to do or would do with these types of powers of Narra? I'm telling you guys, this is something that you guys need to, this is not a 9-day wonder. This is something that you guys need to keep your eyes on very carefully. Alright? No look at joke.
If approving entities that have responsibility to the Jamaican people
Johnson?
For ensuring that projects don't negatively impact us.
Respect.
If they are going to receive directives from Narra, those directives should be published. They should be put on Narra's website. We should be able to see what they are. Similarly, if the minister, who's the PM in this case, is going to exercise stepping powers, that should be published as well. And it's no. The third power, which is that the minister, who is the PM, can issue directions to Narra, which Narra has to comply with. So ultimately, the PM as a minister himself, controls what Narra does, because Narra can be issued directions, and the act allows him to issue directions, and there's no need to publish those directions. So there's this cloak of secrecy over the operations of Narra in these critical areas. The directions that it gives to approving entities, the directives that are given to it by PM as the responsible minister, and the stepping powers that he may choose to exercise. And that was an area of great concern to me. Another area.
A question coming from the chat room. Somebody's asking, how can a non-regulatory body overturn the ruling of a regulatory body?
The only way it can happen is because the law will allow it to happen.
That
is what the Narra Act will allow. So the only way in which that could be contested, I suppose, and I shouldn't say I suppose, it's a live issue really, which I think will ultimately happen, is that somebody is going to be impacted by Narra, and it's going to take that to court, to the Constitutional Court, in the same way that the residents were impacted by the PM's decision to give Bengal the permit to quarry in the Dry Harbour Mountains. That was taken to the Constitutional Court. So I anticipate that there will be over the life of Narra, and we don't know how long Narra is going to exist for. And that's another point. It's a peculiar thing. Initially, it was announced that Narra would have a 5-year existence. And if you look in the Narra Act, there's a part, there's a set of provisions in, I think it's part 4 of the Act. There are 4 parts, the last part, which deal with the winding up of Narra, the dissolution of Narra being brought to an end. And those provisions are triggered by the Prime Minister issuing a notice bringing Part 4 into effect. However, there's no provision in the Act which says when that may happen. So it could happen sooner,
later,
it could happen never. In my view, because of how extensive the powers are.
Colin Bell laugh, it could happen never for true, bro. You know, Colin, you know who we are dealing with. Andrew, we are dealing with, you know, brother. It could happen never, bro. Never. Tell her that it's serious.
Tremendous leverage that it gives the PM, especially in relation to the private sector. Because this is where I see potential for wrongdoing. Because any private developer who has a project of 15 million or more, as long as that project falls within one of a series of general headings of different industries, and it's quite wide, and it's not only quite wide, but the PM can extend it by adding in any other categories that he wishes. So any developer who has a project falling in one of those industries will want to bring it under Narra. Why? Because he has a bulldog in the form of Narra to put any regulatory body, any approving entity in its place. In other words, to ensure that there are no delays, there are no decisions which might affect the costing of his project. However, Narra chooses to exercise those powers, and we don't know how it will. But that incentive is very, very attractive.
Yes, that is true.
So that creates the opportunity for graft, which I think is wrong. So, and we made that point in the House. Another issue.
Continue. You continue.
Another issue of concern about Narra is that because it is such a transformative concept, and it has all these extraordinary powers, and it's going to have all these resources available to it, and can override approving entities, and the minister can step in and change decisions made by approving entities, etc. I felt that the CEO of Narra, who is appointed by the PM, ought to come to Parliament at least every 6 months.
Yeah, 2 times a year. Yeah.
That CEO is required to send a report to the PM every 6 months. And the PM is supposed to table that in Parliament. But at that point, we don't get to speak to the CEO. Unlike, say, the Bank of Jamaica, which has to attend Parliament every year and go before the Standing Finance Committee, which is a committee of the whole House, meaning all MPs. Who want to attend can attend and can ask questions. And the governor of the Bank of Jamaica and his team has to answer questions put by MPs about monetary policy, the economy, inflation, exchange rate management, all of that. I argued that the CEO of Narra should have to come to Parliament and answer questions from all MPs on the projects addressed in his report, his 6-monthly report, or any other relevant questions relating to Narra. Because you can imagine Portland Spice, you can imagine a project is being executed in East Portland or West Portland, and it's not being properly managed. It's happening too slow. They're making decisions that are affecting the environment. There may be structural issues affecting the hillside that could be risk landslides. There could be any manner of things that citizens might be concerned about. And you as an MP now would want to be able to ask questions of the CEO to represent the people who put you there. That was refused. So the only way now that Parliament can play a role in relation to Narra is through the Public Accounts Committee, which is not a committee that all MPs sit on. It's a committee with, I think, 12 or so MPs on it. And they have to bring the matters before them. But the government controls the majority on that committee.
And how easy it is to get the CEO of Narra to the PAAC or the PAC?
The chairman would have to put to the committee that Narra be asked to attend a sitting of the PAAC, and the committee would have to endorse that. And that's
can it be denied by the majority?
Yes, it can. And I've had instances, not at the PAAC, but when I was chairman of the PAC, which is the Public Accounts Committee.
Yes.
Where I wanted to look at Auditor General reports. And I was unable to persuade the majority on the committee to convene a meeting when I wanted to convene it and so on. So the power of the majority is very real in those committees. I'm not saying that PAC won't be able to operate. A lot depends on the attitude of the members, especially government members. But
so
the point
if the government members
was that Narra is so central, will be so central to the Jamaican economic effort and the expenditure of public and private resources on projects, that it ought to have provided a mechanism for Parliament as a whole, at least the House of Representatives as a whole, to hear from the CEO and to be able to ask questions. And that was denied.
But what is...
So Jamaica, what I'm understanding from what Mr. Mark Golden is saying is that there's a way how to get them to get the certain answers, but it's pretty much left up to the conscience of the government. If the government doesn't want the opposition and the public to actually get answers out of Narra, they can refuse it, and there's nothing we can do about it. Absolutely nothing. Not from government structure, because they have majority in these different committees. So all them have to do is vote against. If the way how Andrew Honest is running the Jamaica Labour Party, if Andrew said vote against it, they might move like zombie and vote against it. Them now go like a one person alone I use our conscience right now, and a Marlin mother who for it. One person alone in the Jamaica Labour Party right now is using her conscience or their conscience in regards to anything, acts that are being pulled, everything. I'm telling you.
Difficult in accepting
very
that
dangerous
opposition leader to have the CEO come in front of the entire parliament, take questions from whichever parliamentarian want. What is difficult in that?
I just don't think the government wants to create a situation where the CEO might face tough questions. Also, there's a general reluctance to take on board amendments that come from the opposition anyway because of the tribal nature of our politics. So if they do accept anything, it's something which is so self-evidently necessary, that they will endorse it. And there were a few things of that nature that in the bill, because there were some things that needed to be fixed, because they were just errors. But the important structural deficiencies, the big points of policy which needed to be changed for greater transparency and accountability, those were resisted. And I don't know why a government would wish to do that.
What is your biggest concern about this Narra bill?
I think that it can become an opportunity for the facilitation of corruption because of the immense powers that it will have, and the fact that it is a decision of the cabinet, brought to the cabinet by the Prime Minister, to put a project on the Narra list and so on. It creates tremendous opportunities and incentives for hanky-panky. I'm not going to try and predict that what will or won't happen there, but I'm just saying the opportunity is being created, and that's a bad thing. And so that's one big concern I have. Another big concern I have is that it will operate in an arrogant way, a way in which it refuses to provide information to interested parties as to what it's doing. And people are just feeling the effects of Narra without being able to say anything about it or to ask questions. I'm concerned about those powers that we've just discussed and how those will be executed. And I'm also concerned about the chilling effect that it may have on our agencies, our approving agencies, who may, when faced with the reality of Narra being able to tell them what to do, and if they don't do it, the minister can step in and do it anyway, that they may feel somehow resigned to a kind of lethargic, meek, and ineffective role, whereas they have the powers they have to protect us, we the Jamaican people, in the particular area concerned. So, for example, in the environmental area, there are numerous instances where, private actors have done things or want to do things that could be very damaging to the environment. Whether it be things like the Rio Cobre, whether it be the water table, the aquifer below the country, many other things, coastal areas where there are mangroves, etc. So hotel projects in environmentally sensitive areas and so on. And although we tend to be a bit cavalier about these matters in Jamaica, the reality is that the current situation in the environment is we hold it in trust for future generations.
Yes.
It's not ours to mash up. We must protect it because our children and their children and other generations to come are going to suffer the consequences if we don't. And those consequences will be severe. So I think any entity that is reposed with the responsibility and the powers to protect us ought to be independent and ought not to have, for what we've been saying for a long time, first of all, that the NRCA and NEPA should not be within the Ministry
Office of the Prime. Yes. Yes,
that is a conflict of interest.
Yes.
As was established in the Bengal case.
Only hear that, Jamaica? NEPA should not be where? Very important message that. No, man. Yo. Alright, man. Listen. When you're on a roll, you're on a roll, bro. Yo, Mark Golden is on a roll, bro. Mark Golden, that's a very important point. Hey, TikTok, a roll. Listen to this, bro. He is on a roll. Wow.
If we don't, and those consequences will be severe for future generations. About these matters in Jamaica, the reality is that the current situation in the environment is we hold it in trust for future generations.
Yes.
It's not ours to mash up. We must protect it because our children and their children and other generations to come are going to suffer the consequences.
Yes.
If we don't, and those consequences will be severe.
Severe.
So I think any entity that is reposed with the responsibility and the powers to protect us ought to be independent and ought not to have, for what we've been saying for a long time, first of all, that the NRCA and NEPA should not be within the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. That is a conflict of interest.
Jamaica, the NRCA and NEPA should not be in the, listen again.
For what we've been saying for a long time, first of all, that the NRCA and NEPA should not be within the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. That is a conflict.
The Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development should not have NEPA and NRCA in that ministry. It's a conflict of interest. Both of them need to be independent so they can fully do their job in protecting the environment. What say you? Just look at the Bengal situation. Let's hear more from our Prime Minister that they stole the election from Mark Jefferson Golden. Listen.
As was established in the Bengal case.
Exactly.
Because the decision to grant the permit on appeal was no doubt driven by that ministry's primary motive, which is
hey, you see what he did there? He paused. That ministry's primary motive. He thought about what he was going to say. This man is very brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, And he's absolutely right about us caring for the environment. If you have a leadership that does not protect the environment, that is a breach of trust. They should get a no vote, a vote of no confidence. You know what Andrew did with the Bengal permit. It's kin to him needing to resign and us demanding of it. But it's not affecting you directly, so you don't care. But I am very happy for the opposition leader, Mark Jefferson Bolo, for highlighting this issue. You know, we are very, very cavalier about the environment, and we need to change that. We need to be very serious about protecting the environment.
Economic growth. But economic growth must be done in a sustainable way. Otherwise, growth. That ministry's primary motive, which is to push economic growth. But economic growth must be done in a sustainable way. And otherwise, it's not development, it is destruction. So it's very important that those bodies that are given responsibilities by the laws that we pass to protect us are not cowed down, subordinated, and neutered by an entity being given superpowers over them.
Is the indemnity clause still in the bill, opposition leader?
Yes, it is.
Explain that to the listeners and the viewers.
So there are provisions in the Narra Act that essentially says that any employee of Narra, the CEO or anyone else, who is subject to any kind of legal proceedings, whether it be criminal or civil or administrative proceedings as a result of how they've conducted themselves, is entitled to be indemnified by Narra, meaning that Narra has to pick up their legal fees, and if they have to pay any fine or pay any money or compensation or whatever, Narra has to foot the bill.
How does that make sense?
Subject to them having established that they were acting in good faith. So, you know, if they weren't acting in good faith, they would find it difficult to claim but they could be acting negligently and still acting in good faith. Good faith really goes to dishonesty rather than competence. So you can make a disastrous decision.
Acting in good faith? Would anybody come and say I was acting in good faith when I did something?
Obviously they wouldn't, and it's hard to prove otherwise, you know, especially when you can't get an order for discovery against Narra because of secrecy provisions in the act. So, you know, it's crazy. I was just watching a series recently on Netflix about Chernobyl, the nuclear disaster in the Soviet Union.
Yes.
And, you know, the people in the control room of that nuclear power plant.
Yes.
Made some disastrous decisions.
Yes, but they were acting in good faith.
But they weren't acting in bad faith.
There you go.
They were acting in good faith. They thought they were doing the right thing, but they were being pushed to achieve a particular objective. And in so doing, they crossed various lines, which were disastrous. So I'm just making the point that the Jamaican people are not protected by an indemnity clause that requires somebody to indemnify just on the basis that they acted in good faith. Because they may have acted.
Explain to us, why would you put that in the bill? Why would that be in the bill?
That would be in the bill in order to encourage someone who wants to work at Narra, or is thinking of working at Narra, or is being asked to work at Narra, and may have a concern about the powers that they're being granted, and whether the exercise of those powers could result in them being held accountable personally for it. This would be something that could assure them that were that to happen, they would be protected. That's the only reason I can think of.
I'm scared of that class.
Very much.
Very scared of that class. Because you mentioned that one of your biggest concern about the bill is corruption.
Yeah.
Doesn't this really gives access that, okay, so I can do something and get away with it? Isn't that like a get out of jail free card?
Yeah, and it applies even to criminal proceedings as well. You know, I mean, it's you know, criminal negligence, for example. You would have a defense, and the taxpayer would have to pay for your legal fees.
That's
if
correct.
You were able to establish that you'd
Did you hear the chuckle in the man's voice? You know, I think Mark Golden is being quite what's the word I'm looking for? he's being cynical and sarcastic all at the same time in the way how he's answering the question, because it's not a disrespect to Colin Bell. It's like, it's obvious. The question answers itself. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, basically. Like, this is what the Narra bill does. Listen to I'm telling you, man.
It applies even to criminal proceedings as well, I mean, it's, criminal negligence, for example. You would have a defense, and the taxpayer would have to pay for your legal fees if you were able to establish that you had acted in good faith, if you were criminally negligent. It is an extraordinary thing. It's not unheard of. I've seen it exist elsewhere in other pieces of legislation. I mean, even in the Companies Act today, there are certain circumstances in which directors can be indemnified by the company for acts that they do, if they acted properly and in good faith. But in a public law context where you're not representing the private interests of shareholders, but you're representing every Jamaican citizen, home and abroad, to give such wide indemnification is a charter really for persons who might otherwise have acted a little more circumspect, a little more careful, to be a bit reckless in how they operate, and perhaps arrogant as well. And that's not a good thing.
Never.
Are you concerned about the awesome power that this bill will give to the Prime Minister? And if so, why?
I definitely am. I am, because there are inadequate checks and balances. The absence of a board means that the Prime Minister gets directly involved in Narra's affairs, because the CEO reports to him directly, and he can issue directions to that CEO, which are mandatory. The CEO has to comply with them, otherwise he breaches the law. And it's not just policy directions. These are specific directions about how to execute the responsibilities that Narra has. So these are that's a very unusual provision. And I think for so much power to be reposed in the most powerful person in the country, who is the Prime Minister, who can remove any cabinet member, who can call an election at any time if anybody threatens him. These are serious issues. We have to understand our constitutional arrangements, and we need checks and balances in our democracy. Otherwise, the possibilities for abuse are real.
Extraordinary.
And I think that Narra has created huge opportunities for abuse.
Is it true that the bill says Narra can do anything?
Well, it doesn't set out the purposes for which Narra is established. And that is something which, again, that was an amendment that I had pursued, but which was rejected. When any bill comes to Parliament, a bill is a law, a written law, that when passed becomes an act of Parliament or a statute. So when it enters Parliament, it's called a bill. And a bill has a page at the back called a Memorandum of Objects and Reasons. And the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons is written in plain English. It's not written in legal text. And it's not actually part of the Act itself, because once it's passed, it ceases to be, it never makes its way into the Act once the law is passed. It's just to guide parliamentarians in the debate. But in this particular bill, in the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons, there were a number of paragraphs which set out what they were saying the purposes of Narra are. And I said, let us lift those provisions and put them in the bill in a section early on, which sets out the purposes of what Narra is being established to do. And that was important because there were other provisions in the bill which said, if Narra is not being, if a project is furthering the purposes of Narra, then X or Y. But there's nothing to say what those purposes are. So I thought this would be very useful. And the paragraphs were all about sustainable development, resilience, and all that kind of thing. They point blank refused to do that. So there's nothing in the Act which sets out what Narra is really being established to do. And it's very misleading. And the reason why it's misleading is because it has been sold to Jamaican people as something to do with Hurricane Melissa.
Listen to this.
Narra has nothing to do with Hurricane Melissa.
That was my next question. You're serious about that?
I'm serious about that. Narra
There's
has
nothing in the bill that speaks about the recovery and rebuilding after Hurricane Melissa?
Nothing. There's no mention of any hurricane, of any natural disaster, or anything of that nature. Narra is the government's attempt to do what it has failed to do for 10 years, which is to get the Jamaican economy to grow more rapidly. And there is a view within the government that the reason why they have failed to get Jamaica to grow, other than at very low rates, is because the bureaucracy is inefficient.
Yeah, that part.
And it takes too long to move anything
Listen
forward.
to the response.
Is that they use the pretext of Melissa to create this new platform to drive projects in a way that was not previously possible. But those projects are nothing to do with the hurricane. For the most part, these are projects which they'd already identified from before. You know, a new hospital to replace KPH, the government campus, various road projects to avoid congestion in Lucy, and all that kind of thing. It's nothing about building
the removal of Upper Camp, is that one of them?
It could be. I don't remember, because they're not listed in the act itself. But they have been the subject of discussion, and we've heard what they plan to use Narra to do. In fact, I remember one of the guys from Pdtv, the chairman, I think, saying that the hip strip, the revamping of the hip strip in Montego Bay would be a Narra project. So I'm just saying, there's nothing in there about building houses for people who are hurricane victims. That's not in the act. That's not what it's there for. And then all these, the private sector dimension of it further reaffirms what I'm saying, because now Narra can simply open the gate for any private project of 15 million or more without the regulatory bodies having the ability to really make a difference in as to the way in which that project is rolled out.
Madness.
So
again, has nothing to do with Melissa.
Tell me something, opposition leader. You mentioned earlier in the discussion the Dry Harbor Mountain issue where the court ruled against the government. If Narra, or should we say if, because the bill has been passed, when Narra comes into play, can the Prime Minister just go ahead and do that mining project even though the court
Listen
has
to this,
ruled
this
against
is important.
That's a tricky one. I think that would raise constitutional issues if that attempt was made, because the court has already ruled that that project infringes the environmental rights of the Jamaican people, especially those living in the vicinity of the project. So I think any attempt to use Narra to overturn that could be challenged in court.
When Narra does a project.
So that's good, but it's still not a guarantee though. That's good enough. Because the ruling came before Narra. So that's good. That's good. What a timely ruling though. God is the greatest, Jamaica.
Jack, can it be challenged in court if the citizens believe that this violates our environmental rights or our constitutional right? Can they take it to court?
They can, and they will, I believe.
The opposition is totally up in arms with aspects of this bill. Will we see the opposition taking it to court to basically fix some of the things that you would want to see in the bill?
It's something that I'm considering and I'm seeking advice on. But it may be that we have to wait until Narra is operational and we see what it's actually doing, and if it does anything that is abusive of the rights of people, then we can definitely, of court action be taken, whether by the persons affected or by us or anyone else. But to challenge it just as a law which is not yet operational is a much more challenging legal thing to do. I'm not saying it can't be done. It's something we're looking at, but we haven't come to a decision on that yet.
Do you see this having any issue with the multilaterals?
Well, the multilaterals give tremendous weight to the government's narrative on any issue. That's just the nature of things. And I'm sure that this idea of Narra has been sold to them as a great thing that's going to help Jamaica move forward and help to reconstruct after Melissa and all of that. It's spin that the government propagandists put on it, However, they are aware, I believe, of the shortcomings of the bill because, and I must mention Jamaicans for Justice and the Jamaica Environmental Trust in particular, who took the time to really analyze the bill and to put forward at least two position papers on different versions of the bill as it evolved through Parliament. And their points were solid and well reasoned, and I think that the international community would be aware of those points. They would also, I hope, be aware of some of what we've been saying, because we publish we created videos and published them, and they're on the internet and in social media and so on, of what we were saying. So there's a lot of material out there for anyone who's interested on what the Narra bill is and isn't.
The government speaks about red tape and procurement issues. How then, opposition leader, that the government could buy a school bus in 2 months? How was that possible?
Exactly. It's simply, to my mind, it's not an honest position to take in terms of the justification for it. Because even look at this Spark program, which is so...
hear that? It's not an honest position to take. Not an honest position.
Exactly. It's simply, to my mind, it's not an honest position to take in terms of the justification for it. Because even look at this Spark program, which is so problematic. All of the Spark approvals have been obtained. The Spark was not held back. I mean, the problem with Spark are other problems. The fact that it's not, some of the necessary preparatory work to ensure that the projects were well thought through and had considered all the ramifications of what they were doing. Some of that was not done. But Spark has not been in any way hobbled by the existing regulatory framework of Jamaica. And as you said, neither was the procurement of those used buses. And I'm sure there are many other examples.
They are blaming procurement issue, the same bureaucracy and red tape, for the underspending of the $1.44 billion donated to Jamaica to assist the Jamaican people. What do you say about that?
That's just farce. That's just nonsense. That is just an absence of political will and good public management. There's absolutely no reason why they couldn't spend that money if they were minded to do it on people who needed the help for which it was given.
Why would Lenore travel thousands of miles to get...
Easy. Calm down.
There's absolutely no reason why they couldn't spend that money if they were minded to do it on people who needed the help for which it was given. It's a question in anything in government, Colin. If you want it to go through according to a timeline, you have to manage the process. You have to ensure that the necessary steps are taken on a timely basis. When we were last in government, I was Minister of Justice. And you may recall, Jamaica was in a terrible situation which we inherited from the JLP, where the IMF agreement had collapsed. Jamaica's name was mud in the international lending community because they had abandoned the program, and we had to get back in good grace.
Blessings and love. Thank you so much for the donation. Thank you for the super chat. You know what I mean? Hey, consider becoming a member of the platform. All right? Yeah, man. The memberships are open, okay? Salute to you. Really appreciate that.
Races with the international financial community, and they exacted a price in the sense that they were quite strict in the conditions that they imposed on Jamaica. And a lot of the changes that they required to be made required legislation. So the deliverables, what they call structural benchmarks under the IMF program, most of them were in the form of legislation. Some were just maintaining financial metrics in how you spend your money. But a lot of them were structural and things that had to be changed through legislation. And I was responsible for the legislative program of the government at that time under Burchell Simpson. And I just had to manage that program so that we developed the legislation and pursued it and implemented it on a timely basis, because every one of those structural benchmarks, there are about 15 of them, if my memory serves, probably more. Every single one of them had a date attached to them, that you had to table this bill in Parliament by X day, or you had to pass it by Y day. And I didn't want to be the reason why Jamaica wasn't delivering on the program. So I got my team together in the ministry, and they were great civil servants, great public servants. And we spent hours on this thing every week. I mean, weekends, late at night sometimes, but it's possible to do it. And I'm just saying, you know, so for them to say they can't spend money donated in cash for the purposes of the Jamaican people, it's just a lie.
What about?
Come on, bro. I gotta listen. Mark Golden is on fire, bro. Mark Jefferson Golden is absolutely on fire. I am so happy that I am here reviewing this. Honestly, do you no? How can you argue with what he just said a while ago? It's all about political will. That's the bottom line. They don't care, Jamaica. They don't care. Mighty God.
Probably more. Every single one, but a lot of them were structural and things that had to be changed through legislation. And I was responsible, like under the IMF program, did the price in the sense that with the IMF agreement that when we expect political will and good public.
They are blaming
right, yes,
procurement issue. The sea.
Right, yes, sir. Yes. I have to do this. No, I have to do this. This is gonna be an important video. Do not scroll. Listen to this question and listen to the answer. As lengthy as it is, it's very important. Listen to this from Colin Bell and Mark Golden's interview on Portland Spice TV. Make sure you go subscribe. Listen to this.
There are many other examples.
They are blaming procurement issue, the same bureaucracy and red tape, for the underspending of the $1.44 billion donated to Jamaica to assist the Jamaican people. What do you say about that?
This is a farce. That's just nonsense. That is just an absence of political will and good public management. You know, there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't spend that money if they were minded to do it on people who needed the help for which it was given. There, you know, it's a question in anything in government, Colin. If you want it to go through according to a timeline, you have to manage the process.
Mm-hmm.
You have to ensure that the necessary steps are taken on a timely basis. When we were last in government, I was Minister of Justice. And then you may recall we had Jamaica was in a terrible situation which we inherited from the KLP, where the IMF agreement had collapsed. Jamaica's name was mud in the international lending community because they'd abandoned the program, and we had to get back in good graces with the international financial community. And they exacted a price in the sense that they were quite strict in the conditions that they imposed on Jamaica. And a lot of the changes that they required to be made required legislation. So the deliverables, what they call structural benchmarks under the IMF program, most of them were in the form of legislation. Some were just maintaining financial metrics and how you spend your money. But a lot of them were structural and things that had to be changed through legislation. And I was responsible for the legislative program of the government at that time under Portia Simpson Miller. And I just had to manage that program so that we developed the legislation and pursued it and implemented it on a timely basis, because every one of those structural benchmarks, there are about 15 of them, if my memory serves, probably more. Every single one of them had a date attached to them that you had to table this bill in Parliament by X day, or you had to pass it by Y day. And I didn't want to be the reason why Jamaica wasn't delivering on the program. So I got my team together in the ministry, and they were great civil servants, great public servants. And we spent hours on this thing every week. I mean, weekends, late at night sometimes, but it's possible to do it. And I'm just saying, you know, so for them to say they can't spend money donated in cash for the purposes of the Jamaican people, it's just a lie.
What about emergency?
It's just a lie, Jamaica. It's just a lie. One Marky G. Mighty God. Man, listen, bro. Yo, what? Yo, this person in my comment section a while ago, I see the labor rights are up late at night watching Bolo via Narra. This truth must be stressing y'all out, man. This truth must be stressing you guys out. The fact that we are going through it and disseminating the information is really stressing, to the point where you want to worship the devil and come in here and just shout out the devil's saying that you guys shout out. on all of this in the comment section, the same nonsense. Were you guys even listening to what Mark Golding said? The man, we were in an impossible situation. Right? We were in an impossible situation. And that is important what he just said, because that was a pivotal moment in our economic history. And that's why I came live on TikTok, because yo, what Mark Golding just said a while ago, I'm telling you. I'm gonna post the video too. Did you hear what he said? I'm gonna play it again. It's too important to not play again. Hold on. I'm gonna play it again and go through it.
And as you said, neither was the procurement of those used buses. And I'm sure there are many other examples.
They are blaming procurement issue, the same bureaucracy and red tape, for the underspending of the $1.44 billion donated to Jamaica to assist the Jamaican people. What do you say about that?
That's just fast. That's just nonsense. That is just an absence of political will and good public management. You know, there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't spend that money if they were minded to do it on people who needed the help for which it was given. There, you know, it's a question in anything in government, Colin. If you want it to go through according to a timeline, you have to manage the process. You have to ensure that the necessary steps are taken on a timely basis. When we were last in government, I was Minister of Justice. And then you may recall, we had Jamaica was in a terrible situation which we inherited from the JLP, where the IMF agreement had collapsed.
Right.
Jamaica's name was mud in international lending community because they had abandoned the program, and we had to get back in good graces with the international financial community. And they exacted a price in the sense that they were quite strict in the conditions that they imposed on Jamaica.
Exactly.
And a lot of the changes that they required to be made required legislation. So the deliverables, what they call structural benchmarks under the IMF program, most of them were in the form of legislation. Some were just maintaining financial metrics in how you spend your money. But a lot of them were structural and things that had to be changed through legislation. I was responsible for the legislative program of the government at that time under Burchell Simpson. And I just had to manage that program so that we developed the legislation and pursued it and implemented it on a timely basis, because every one of those structural benchmarks, there are about 15 of them, if my memory serves, probably more. Every single one of them had a date attached to them that you had to table this bill in Parliament by X day, or you had to pass it by Y day. And I did.
You hear that? Not only was the rules. Oh, so we have another Labour watching. Yes, they are here. The truth is burning them, Jamaica. Yes. Here's another Labour, right? Nobody that defends this government when truth is being spoken and there's mismanagement and clear mismanagement. If you're gonna come into my comment section and defend the government, I don't need you. I don't need you here. You can stay in the background listening, but yeah, I don't want to see those comments. Anyway, so not only was it an impossible situation that they had to beg to get back into actually being in the good graces of wow. No. Not only did we have to make sure that we're in the good graces, to get back into the good graces of the like I share the video, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's late, but I can share the video. And I can bring you to an article that further expounds on that detail, you know, because honestly, some of the things that these people say in the comment section is ridiculous. I want to take you to a report from the IMF itself in regards to, is it this? Oh, it's right here, perfect. In regards to our relationship, our borrowing relationship with the IMF. I can make it read itself, so I can do that and so you can hear it. So this has nothing to do with Bolo VNR and my thoughts. This is coming from the IMF. Alright? Read aloud.
And the IMF, the power of partnership and ownership. Jamaica and the IMF, the power of partnership and ownership. May 2019. After gaining independence in 1962, Jamaica enjoyed strong economic growth and achieved middle-income status quickly. 3 decades later, income started to plateau, including following a massive financial crisis in the 1990s and a further setback after the 2008 global financial crisis. Challenges have ranged from policy missteps that led to high public debt to vulnerability to natural disasters, emigration and brain drain, and high crime. By 2013, Jamaica's public debt had reached a historic high of about 147% of GDP, making it one of the most indebted countries in the world.
Wanna hear that? In 2013, what happened? It was at 147. Fiona, big up. 147% of GDP. Make it one of the most indebted countries in the world. This was what the People's National Party inherited. Let's continue.
Program ownership and design. After a debt exchange in 2010 and yet another IMF-supported program that went off track, in 2011, the country was on the verge of an economic meltdown.
Who was in power in 2011? The Jamaica Labour Party. Who was the Prime Minister at the time? Bruce Golding. Who was a senior member of that government? Andrew Holness. Who took over after Mr. Golding was forced to resign because of the whole Tivoli incursion and the investigation surrounding that? Andrew Holness became the Prime Minister. That is what you have to put into context. That government left this country on the verge of economic meltdown. This is the IMF website, ladies and gentlemen. As a matter of fact, for those you guys are on what do you call it? Lord have mercy. You guys that are on YouTube, I am going to drop the link to this article in the chat right now. Check the chat right now, guys. All of you, check the chat. You will see the link right there. On your own leisure and time, you can, as a matter of fact, you can click on your computer right now, look at the actual article, and listen to it being played and go along. And you'll see what I'm saying is facts. This is the IMF website. I challenge anybody. Come and challenge what I'm saying right now. Make my chest broad. Challenge what I say right now, please, so I can embarrass you. No, that's not right. So I can educate you. And the embarrassment is for the persons that don't like to read from the Jamaica Labour Party side. Because if you had any doubt, because you think that, oh, Bolo supports the PMP, so I lie, I tell, take the link, and this is for the persons on YouTube. And for those on TikTok, if you want to come over to YouTube, the link is in the bio. Go to the link in the bio, click that link, and follow me on YouTube, and then come to the live stream. And you can see the link that I just dropped. And I can drop it again if you need me to. When you come in, I can drop it again and you can click on it and you can read it. Because really and truly, I am tired of the nonsense in the comment section. Yes, I remember that PJ paid off the IMF in 1995. That is very significant, right? That's very significant. But let's go back to the article, ladies and gentlemen. We were in a financial crisis on the verge of economic meltdown. Not my word. This is
meltdown with no access to.
Listen to this.
Program ownership and design. After a debt exchange in 2010 and yet another IMF-supported program that went off track, in 2011, the country was on the verge of an economic meltdown with no access to international capital markets.
with no access to international capital markets. This is something that the Jamaica Labour Party cannot deny. And even if they did, we can tell them that they're telling a bold-faced lie because we have the articles to prove it. We can come out on national television and say, you're lied. Here's the evidence. The international capital market was shut off to Jamaica. They did not trust us at all. That's why Mama P had to go on her knees and beg, and the financial minister at the time had to go on their knees and beg to have a meeting with the IMF. You know how long it took them to negotiate a deal with the IMF? Remember, PJ paid them off, so PJ, that, you know why that is significant? Because PJ and the People's National Party always had a strong relationship with our lenders, the IMF, because we followed the rules, ladies and gentlemen. We have a good way called credit score with the IMF. But the IMF does not look at Jamaica as PMP or JLP. They look at Jamaica as Jamaica. They don't care who is in government. So the same reputation from the JLP was used against the PMP. They wanted them to fail, but guess what? The PMP didn't fail. And that is exactly what Mark Golden is explaining. He was integral in terms of forming the legislation to make sure that no other government after could ever put us in that situation again, on the verge of economic meltdown and having no access. That part, two of them is bad enough, but that part, having no access to international capital market. Jamaica, can you imagine if Hurricane Melissa came and we have no access to the IMF or any other, Mrs. Buchanan, how are you doing? Any other entity overseas in the international capital market would not look at Jamaica and actually give us the time of day in helping us to recover from the financial damage of Hurricane Melissa and Hurricane Burchell as well. I just want you guys to imagine not having that help at all. What does that look like? You know how much people would commit suicide? You know how much people would have fallen in depression? Probably riot would have started. You know how much people would be dying for hunger? You know how much people would have lost their lives just because? Where would they get the help from? Where did most of the money come from to alleviate the government outside of the CRIF and the catastrophic bond? Where did most of the help come from? Independent entities from overseas. The economy would have been set back even further. It would have been hard it would have been impossible for the government to first of all, the economy would have died already. Let me just say that. Listen, I'm sorry. I said all of that never needed to be said. If the PMP did not fix what they did in 2010, in Mama P's era, Jamaica would not have an economy. Jamaica would probably be owned by outside entities by now. They would literally own the people of Jamaica because of the debt that would have been incurred. The lands would have been gone, major resources, because we were locked out of the international. They wanted Jamaica to crash. They wanted Jamaica to crash. I just want you guys to understand. Yes, Portia had to beg the lady and another congresswoman to speak on her behalf to the IMF on Christmas Day, I believe. It was, I'm telling you, if Portia didn't have that influence, dog, eat our supper. Obviously, God is behind everything, but I'm just saying. It's God put Portia there. God knew what he was doing. right? We would have no economy. Jamaica would be dying right now. Literally, from that time till now. Can you imagine? No access to the international capital market. And remember, the Prime Minister came and boasted about how we had access to all this money. And it's because of the fiscal prudence and discipline that he has nothing to do with. It was set already by Mark Golding and the team. Well, Mark Golding, that was a part of a big team, that was a part of the team of Portia Simpson Miller and the People's National Party, the finance minister, all of them. If it wasn't for those brilliant minds, oh my God, we would have no supper Jamaica. There wouldn't be any supper to eat. I just want to put that in full context. Labor rights, don't comment in my comment section if you never talk foolishness. Because I'm going to rub salt in the wound, and the salt is truth. Because I know it a burn someone right now for you to tell the truth right now. And other people are listening and say, but wait, we never did know that. And anybody, don't be afraid. If you come humble and say, where can I find this information? I will show it to you. As a matter of fact, I have a video on TikTok, you know. As a matter of fact, you know, I have a video on TikTok that literally shows this breakdown that I just gave a while ago. Right. You know, say, accidentally accept my general, come there I do a class, you know. No violation. Respect. And when I really do the game thing, isn't it? Sorry about that. Yeah. So I have a video on TikTok that actually goes through this article and an article on Siaga and his era in the 80s. I have that as well, debunking the myths about the 1980s under Edward Siaga. It was a terrible time, Jamaica. Terrible time. The data is real. And you know what's funny about this article and what's ironic? It's coming from somebody that represented the Jamaica Labour Party, you know, in a political capacity, you know, around the time, you know. So when fisherman go see and tell us a sea rough, believe it. Anyway, let's continue. Locked out of the capital market. Listen to this.
Markets. Jamaica once again turned to the IMF in spring 2013 for financial support. With its preceding weak track record of reform, significant budget
preceding weak track record of reform.
Financing from international and development partners was less forthcoming.
It was harder for us to get financing from these international and developing partners because of the weak track record. That's what it's saying. Listen to this.
Forthcoming. Jamaica needed a second debt exchange and a primary surplus of 7.5% of GDP to help stabilize the economy and address long-standing structural challenges.
So you see that 7.5%. Yeah, man, that is a part of it too, Bobby. You see that 7.5% of GDP to help stabilize the economy. Where did the People's National Party get it from? The money from the NHT. However, the responsible PMP government did a research, had an entity do a research on what would be the structural damage of the NHT if they should take out money, that $11.4 billion from the NHT for 4 years. And the actual investigative report came back and said no damage would be done to the operations for the NHT to carry out its mandate if it's done for just 4 years. Jamaica, the Jamaica Labour Party has continued to take away from the NHT. So we know that the damage of the NHT is happening right now. Based off that study, the JLP did the opposite of what the people them said them for. The people said, do not take any money past the 4-year period, and that was the law. And then the JLP goes up now and changed the law, right, and run it again. They don't change the law, them use it. I don't remember the terminology, right? They reenacted the law to make it legal for them to take the money from the NHT for another 5 years, and then another 5 years, and now they're doing it for another 5 years. You cannot make this up. You cannot. You cannot make this up. We only have 6 likes. Now come off of TikTok. Have a good night, TikTok. Come over to me YouTube. The level of disrespect on TikTok is normal right now. My TikTok, I don't know it. TikTok not it. Come off of TikTok. You know it. You know it. Anyway, we're gonna move back to Mark Holy. With the Mark smallest now move, you know? That is it.
Want to be the reason why I had about 15 of them, and I remember this, probably more. Every single one of them had a date attached to them that you had to table this bill in Parliament by X day, or you had to pass it by Y day. And I didn't want to be the reason why Jamaica wasn't delivering on the program. So I got my team together in the ministry, and they were great civil servants, great public servants. And we spent hours on this thing every week. I mean, weekends, late at night sometimes, but it's possible to do it. And I'm just saying, you know, so for them to say they can't spend money donated in cash for the purposes of the Jamaican people, it's just a lie.
What about emergency procurement? How does that work? Why they not using that?
They do use it. They use it when they want to use it. They've used it extensively in Melissa. When I was in Black River, on the Friday after Melissa, I flew to Black River to see what was going on there. And I was in the town mash up. It was like a mud everywhere and buildings, people just standing around or sitting around, and it was horrible. You know, everyone was in a terrible situation. But they started the cleanup already.
Why waste another summer not loving your body?
With Place 44, we turned that question into a successful business.
A woman has an average of 80 summers.
There were trucks, many trucks that were around or sitting around, and it was horrible. You know, everyone was in a terrible situation. But they started the cleanup already. There were trucks, many trucks that were working, loading up mud and debris and what have you. And I was like, what? And then I saw a government MP on the corner in Blackwood. And he's not an MP for any parish in Western Jamaica. So I asked a local people there, I said, what is that MP doing here? And he said, I free him truck them at work. Yeah. And that was days after Minister. That was emergency procurement.
So Jamaica, Marlene, how you do it? You see when it's benefiting. Yo, Marco is on a roll, bro. This interview is all the way fire. I'm talking about night. Y'all gotta give me another second, man. Oh my God. What? Yo, this is crazy, fam. This is insane, bro. Oh my God, this is insane. This is insane. This is the highest level of insanity. I'm not gonna lie to you, boy. Wow, bro.
There were trucks.
Go back some more.
On the Friday after Melissa, I was in Melissa when they want to use it. For the purposes of the Jamaican people. It's just a lie. I mean, weekends, late, got my team together in the ministry, and they were great. So,
yeah, man, I start for all right. Listen. Wow. Mr. Mark Golding, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Wow. You have to clip these things up, you know. You gotta clip these things up, right? Gots to clip these things up. Gots to. I think I'm gonna go live on TikTok early tomorrow morning, you know, when I wake, or whenever I wake tomorrow. I have some videos to premiere. As a matter of fact, I need to get off here. There's a video coming up at 4. But Marky G have me a walk tonight, brother. No, sir. Mark Golding, I'm not complaining, sir. Keep them coming. Keep these gems coming. Keep these gems coming, sir. Save to draft. Alright, so I save that to draft. When I'm done with deal with it. When I'm done with deal with that because Jaja. So, oh. So Jamaica, this is a part 2. Listen to Mark Golding expose the government with the logic, well, with the lies that they told about procurement is what is blocking them. True.
servants, great public servants. And we spend hours on this thing every week. I mean, weekends, late at night sometimes, but it's possible to do it. And I'm just saying, you know, so for them to say they can't spend money donated in cash for the purposes of the Jamaican people, it's just a lie.
What about emergency procurement? How does that work? Why are they not using that?
They do use it. They use it when they want to use it. They've used it extensively in Melissa. When I was in Black River, on the Friday after Melissa, I flew to Black River to see what was going on there. And I was in the town mashed up. It was like a mud everywhere and buildings, people just standing around or sitting around, and it was horrible. You know, everyone was in a terrible situation. But they started to clean up already. There were trucks, many trucks that were working, loading up mud and debris and what have you. And I was like, what? And then I saw a government MP on the corner in Black River. And he's not an MP for any parish in Western Jamaica. So I asked a local people there, I said, what is that MP doing here? And he said, I feel him truck them at work. Yeah. And that was days after Minister hit. That was emergency procurement. That never went through any tender process.
So Jamaica, mighty God, when the money is fresh, you know, so a JLP MP we don't come from the area, could I get emergency contract for clean up a place? How convenient. So what the problem now, more than Morgan, all of a sudden we need Narra to make things move fast. The devil is a liar. Hey, big up Mark Golding. We didn't hear that story before now, but you see, context matter. And it was important, and I'm glad he mentioned it in this argument surrounding you know, it's just the bureaucracy. That's why we can't spend this money. It's a lie, Jamaica. It's a bold-faced lie. One Marky G, utterly disgusting, suffering the people talking about, you know, it's the bureaucracy, and this is why we need Narra to do our damn jobs. All I want to out the way I defend the government, and I want to feel. I want to blur not feel. Disgusting.
Opposition leader, what do you have to say to the people of Jamaica? How should we position ourselves to deal with this Narra issue?
Okay, well, I'm going to have to wrap up now because I
have 2 more questions for you. Just 2. But how
I would say to Jamaican people that we have to be very vigilant in relation to how Narra is operating. We should use all the tools at our disposal to try and get information. Access to Information Act. It's not clear to what extent that will be effective. We have to try it. We have to go to court if necessary to get information. And if there are things that are happening which indicate that the Jamaican people's interests are not being protected and that things are taking place which are dangerous or wrong, then we have to be prepared to stand up to it, whatever way, lawful way there is, whether it's go to court, whether it's demonstrating, whatever it may be. We just have to be as vigilant as we can. I mean, I am hopeful that they won't abuse those powers, those immense, extraordinary powers that they've given themselves. I'm hoping that they won't abuse them, that there won't be any corruption and so on. But based on track record of the government over the last 10 years, I'm not optimistic about that.
Yes.
The Integrity Commission opposition leader tabled a report from, I think, March. They sent a report to the Parliament from March. It has not been tabled. They put out a release on that today. Speak to us a little bit about that.
I was shocked to read in yesterday's Sunday newspaper that
this was
the firearm Sunday. I was shocked to read in yesterday's Sunday newspaper that a report on the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, had been sent by the Integrity Commission to Parliament, I think on the 30th of March. And we didn't know about it because all you know is that a report has gone. You don't know what the report is. And those reports can be from, some public servant who hasn't filed their thing on time to something serious like this. So we didn't know until somehow the newspaper got some information about it. And it turned out to be about the Firearm Licensing Authority. And there was a cover letter from the Integrity Commission to Parliament sending the report, which said that it is about acts of corruption and wrongdoing within the FLA. That's a very serious matter. The FLA is a very critical agency of government.
Yes.
Because it is empowering people to have lethal weapons. So if the wrong people are given those licenses, whether because of incompetence within the FLA or corruption within the FLA, then every Jamaican is at risk because somebody has a lawful weapon which the police can't take from them if they use it lawfully. And they might use it to do something unlawful and then it's too late. So the point really is, this was a critical report. And I wrote to the Speaker yesterday to explain why this is such a critical thing and why the obligation is clear, in my view, that it should be tabled without further delay and demanding that it is and calling on her to do her duty as Speaker to ensure that it is tabled on Tuesday in the House.
Is it a breach, Opposition Leader, by the Speaker of the House?
In my view, it is, because the purpose of the act is being thwarted. When the Integrity Commission completes an investigation, often it takes them a long time to do the investigation. They write their report and they send it to Parliament. The purpose of that is to bring it to the attention of the nation, to bring it to the attention of the parliamentarians, the media, and all Jamaicans. And that is the sunlight, that is the disinfectant that can result in action being taken and making the public aware of what's going on and bringing pressure to bear to have things change and improve and be fixed. So if the Speaker and the President of the Senate get these things and they sit on them, and we don't even know what they are, they're undermining the very purpose, the central purpose for which the Integrity Commission was established. And that's not right.
And if it's not tabled on Tuesday?
Well, we'll have to see. I don't like to predict what action we will take. We'll see what happens on Tuesday.
My final question to your opposition leader is coming from the chat room, about 50, 60, maybe hundreds of people in the chat room, saying with all that has been happening, this breach, the underspending, the police excessive, all that is happening, when will the opposition take it to the streets?
Ask them if they're going to come and join us.
Well, they have been saying, and as I said, it's not my question, it's their question. I am obligated to ask, because people are upset.
Listen, people are upset and justifiably upset. And it's something that we are considering how to deal with, Unfortunately, what we have found over time is that people don't have the fire in their belly again for going on the street and demonstrating. They're happy to see others do it, but they're busy or it's too much trouble or they can't bother. So, we have to see whether the things going on now are sufficiently serious, egregious, that it would stir the Jamaican people from their slumber and make them answer the call.
Everybody, people in the chat room are down over 100. Yes, they are ready. But opposition leader, let me thank you this evening for taking the time out to speak to us.
One Marky G. Yeah, man. One Marky G, man. Trust me. People at this time I have to leave it. Excuse me, I have a video premiering at 4. And then another one at 6:30. And then others after that. So I have some work to do. Even on TikTok. God bless you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for the donation. Big up, blessings and love. And I am telling you, I'm encouraging everybody on the platform to become a member of the platform. All right, we're gonna do some members only. I want to raise the bar of membership to the point where I want to have members only live chats. If you're not a member, you won't be able to type. And if you're not a moderator, so only moderators and members will be able to type. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. God bless you all. See y'all later. Peace. Have a good one. All right. Hit the like button if you haven't already before you leave. Thanks again.